Welcome to episode 26 of the Hike or Die Outdoor Adventure Podcast. I am here with my good friend Craig. Mate, you know what's kind of irritating, Craig?
Mm-hmm.
Is when I keep getting these guests on with the name of Tom and they've got a more interesting story than me.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah, it's kind of a theme, isn't it? Let's do the music thing, mate. Thank you, as always, to our regular podcast sponsors for their support. Topo Maps Plus, a phone application that allows you to view topographical maps and track your location even without cell phone coverage. Go deeper into the backcountry. Rios floating polarized sunglasses with 100% UV protection for the love of water. Bluey Merino, Australian superfine merino wool base, mid and top layer garments. Where our story ends, yours is just beginning. Caribou, one of Australia's leading backpack, travel and outdoor brands. They supply us with dry bags, waterproof day packs and expedition bags. Supporting our sponsors allows us to continue to produce this podcast, so please jump online and check out what they have to offer. G'day guys, how you doing? Welcome to another podcast. We have a fantastic guest this evening named Tom Fabbri. I'm not going to go into too much detail now. I'll save that for a bit later. Because first of all, Craig, how are you, mate?
Hey, mate, I'm really good, thanks. How you doing?
Yeah, really good, actually. Thanks, mate. Really good. I've had a fantastic day. I drove up to a place called Blackbutt and spent the day down at Emu Creek.
Sounds like you made that name up, mate, but you didn't.
I don't know. It sounds like it's so Aussie.
Mm-hmm.
What was another cool creek name we went past? Oh, that's right. We drove past Wallaby Creek to get to Emu Creek. I'm not making this up.
That's perfect.
Took the whole family down there and had lunch. There's some really cool campsites down there.
Where'd you go out to Blackbutt for, dude?
Just to explore the national park.
Oh, they're right.
Yeah, no. We drove into Blackbutt, went to this kick-ass bakery where I had possibly one of the best pies I've ever had.
Yeah, right.
It was called Jack's Ribs.
Yeah.
That was the name of the pie.
Nice.
And when I
It's got.
okay, so it's good for a start. And I didn't quite know what I was in for, but when we started eating lunch, it had full chunks of kind of like pork, diced pork, spare rib or something in there, minus the bones. But it was good. It was really good.
Sounds awesome.
So yeah, we knocked those over and then we went and checked out the national park and the campsites and everything. Just a bit of a recon for going up there. Again.
Did you know that's where we went as a school when I was younger? Did you know that's where the outdoor education was we used to go to for the school?
I did not know. Was it in
Blackbutt?
Was it at? Oh, we drove past it. There was a sign. What was it called?
Guga Outdoor Education.
I didn't see that. I didn't see that
Yeah.
sign, but I did see some kind of education sign up there.
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome place.
That I never knew where it was.
That's where we went to.
There you go. Yeah, it's a nice spot, eh?
Yeah, the kids still go out there and learn how to, climb things and
Yeah.
burn things and whatever.
Well, it's a top place to do it.
Yep.
My 3 young fellas were climbing up this rock face. It was hilarious. Just going for it. My eldest starts going for the summit, and I'm like, dude, this is not today.
Not
I
today.
was in my my pluggers,
Right.
my flip flops.
Yeah.
So, and I was copping it too from the boys. Why didn't you wear proper shoes, Dad? So I didn't know we were climbing a mountain today.
Yeah. Cool.
So what have you been up to,
Mate? I was just, as you were saying that, thinking about your kids and how we went out on the beach at Beachmere.
Oh, that's right. And then we also, between podcasts, we also did that fall drive day.
Yeah.
That was cool as well, eh?
Yeah, 100%. Went to the park there. And no, I didn't tell you that I did go for a solo hike, just a little day trip. And I went out with my new field recorder
You took it out?
I took it out and had a little bit of a go.
That's exciting.
So,
Where did you go?
I just up to Greens Falls, one of my favourite spots, and had a little walk around and, basically talked to myself and on the... No, actually, it was interesting.
Good company there. Yeah.
I was on my own, but I think we spent a bit of time talking about like journaling and stuff. So I took a little notepad and it was really nice having some time.
You're really starting to embrace the knowledge that we're
everything you say.
No, not me. The guests have been imparting on us.
I know.
I think
I'm such a junkie.
It's nice. I mean, it's only taken 2 years, just over 2.5 years, for you to start listening to guests and participate. So this is a big step.
Yeah.
Good on you, mate. Hey,
no, well, look, it's interesting. What the hell just happened there?
It's just you just attacked me.
I did.
Go for it.
I actually found a bunch of my old diaries and stuff because
your dear diaries when you were 16.
They had a little lock on them.
I think Jenny loves me.
And I didn't realise how much I used to write down, and so it was really, appropriate that we'd had that chat with the guests last week
with Chase
about writing in a book, and I used to do a heap of it. Never like today. I'm going to eat porridge and whatever you guys write in your journals.
Oh, only serious stuff.
It was
did 100 push-ups.
Yeah. No, I used to write all these lyrics and stuff, and it's very.
Oh yeah, I think writing lyrics is cool because you basically it's a form of poetry, right? And it's an expression and it's creative. So I think it ticks a lot of boxes. You should do that.
So no, but did find some old stuff, and it is funny. It's funny reading it back. Now,
I found some old lyrics. Yeah, I found some old lyrics from way back, and they were so bad.
Yeah,
it was cringeworthy. It was so bad.
So I threw it all away.
I threw mine away. I think I kept one, which was kind of okay. Anyway, hey,
what else?
What I was going to say before
you
tore my throat out,
yeah,
was I'm sipping on while Craig's sipping on a beer.
Yeah.
I'm sipping on a delicious coffee here. I wanted to say thanks to Roland.
Oh, yeah.
Roland is a very, very good listener because Roland sent us a whole bunch of coffee and chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm enjoying one of those coffees right now. His parents run... Now, he didn't ask me to do this, by the way. I said I'm mentioning it. Too bad I'm mentioning it because of the gesture. To be very clear, Roland sent us this stuff, and he said, in his own words, I just love the podcast. I just want to say thanks in some way because I appreciate all the effort you guys put into it. I want to send you some coffee because I know you love coffee because we're often talking about it. That's all. That was it. And what a fantastic gesture. So they needed a forklift to get the package to my door. You should have seen how much. I mean, I split it all.
Yeah.
It looked like some kind of dealer with the scales and everything. I gave half to Craig. But what I wanted to say was thanks so much, and thanks to Roland's parents who run the Coffee Works up in North Queensland. If you're up that way, if you're a tourist, if you're not a tourist, if you're a local, I don't care. Next time you're cruising through Cairns, they're in Cairns, they're in Mareeba, Port Douglas, Townsville, and Atherton, and they even make an appearance at Rusty's Markets. So I just think if you can drop in and say g'day, that'd be cool. They also, you can buy online at coffeeworks.com.au. I'll put all the links in the usual place in the show notes. But yeah, I just wanted to give them a shout out because they asked for nothing in return, but it was just such a kind gesture, and we really do appreciate it. And I have to say, there was some Queensland grown beans that we tried, and they're one of my favourites. I absolutely love them.
Inspired me to bring my coffee machine downstairs.
Yeah, bought the
best thing that's happened.
Bought the actual coffee machine down here.
It's in the
so that we
bathroom.
did-
so that I can make some coffee down here, which is great, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, it's fantastic. Oh no, it's great. So
Yeah.
there's a blend called Black Mountain Blend.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's a Queensland grown
Is it?
Australian bean. Yeah. I do recommend it. It's robust. It's tough. It's good stuff. So thanks, Roland, man. We really appreciate it, and we continue to appreciate that's the gift that keeps on giving.
Great.
In other news, Craig, I don't want to make light of this, but there's so much happening in the world at the moment, and there's this kind of renaming convention going on. So we're talking about national parks, monuments, all this sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we come to the realization, and the reason I frame it that way is when I see the name of a national park in Australia or a mountain range, I never really question who that person was. My assumption is each time that they're a noteworthy person, from history that's worthy of having their name associated with an area. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's a fairly, one would think that's a pretty good assumption. The more you dig, and I mean the recent events have kind of have brought this up. I didn't know what to think of it at first. I thought, hang on a second, you want to start renaming stuff, but that is history itself is that place because it's named that. But the more I kind of thought about it, and then the more I did a little bit of digging into a few things as well, the more I think, hang on a second, things have changed, and I think they got it wrong, and I think it's okay. So what I'm talking about here is there's a couple of articles, and they both popped up around the same time. One is Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks have stripped all mention of General Lee. Now, if you remember way back, I talked about General Lee, the tree. There was a massive sequoia tree, and remember, it was called General Lee, right?
Really?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Now, and again, you just have this assumption that, obviously he was an upstanding citizen that did great things. So they've stripped all mention of him through those national parks because he was just massively into slavery.
Really?
Oh, yeah, he's not a nice person. He is not the sort of person that you would want to represent as any kind of role model. Like he hasn't done anything fantastic for the environment or anything. Like we're not talking about who? I was just lost my who I was thinking of.
Giant trees you were saying. It was like,
yeah, that's exactly what they are, mate.
These big fields of trees that are just
absolutely
the biggest you've ever seen.
That's right, mate. Yeah, that's the sequoia
trees. Yeah, which I would love to be up next to one day. Sounds good.
You've got to do it.
I've got to do it.
It's probably one of the most that and so my time in Tasmania definitely was moving. When I was in Yosemite National Park, that was the first time I ever felt small and insignificant. And then being amongst the sequoia trees was pretty moving.
Yeah, because we've got nothing like that in Australia, have we? Those trees.
Not to the physical size, and then kind of how long they live for. So yeah, they actually mentioned Ben Boyd National Park in Australia in this article, in this US article, and I thought, oh yeah, I've heard of Ben Boyd.
Mm-hmm.
What's so bad about that? So then I go and research Ben Boyd. He was into the slavery market in Australia as well. So he'd go on a ship and bring people back from the islands and then convince them to come back here. And then, it's just bad stuff. I don't even like giving these guys the time of day. But what it did was it kind of reframed my initial thoughts. I'm kind of getting way off track here, but I have this, I've always had this belief that don't try and hide bad things in history, but rather keep them there and remind yourself never to make that mistake again and learn from it. That's kind of been my ethos. But then when I looked deeper into this, I thought, hang on, that doesn't fit with this anymore, because they don't deserve their name associated with these spectacular places. So another article that popped up was an Australian article about the Western Australian government has removed, so there's King Leopold's Ranges. Have you ever heard of that?
Yep.
King Leopold's Range. So he's this Belgian tyrant. He'd never even been to Australia. The explorer at the time thought it'd be pretty cool to call it after him.
Okay.
He was, and I cannot even say the things that he has done because they're so despicable, but he was into the ivory trade and the rubber trade in the Congo, and it's horrific stuff. Why has he got his name on a mountain range in Australia when there's so many more fitting people? So what they've done, which is even better, I think, is they've renamed it. There's two, because the range goes for 500 kilometers approximately, and it covers two different indigenous tribes. Yeah. So what they've done is they've hyphenated the name, and the two words cover both indigenous tribes, which I think is pretty cool. I'm going to have a crack at saying it here. Winaman Milawundi Range. That is the new name of that range. King Leopold's.
Are you serious? So that's been renamed now?
It's done. It's not a ballot. It's not a vote. It's finished.
Wow.
This is going to happen a lot more. We're going to see it happen a lot more. And at first I wouldn't say I was, I'm the kind of person that when someone presents an idea like this, I like to just think about it for a bit and sit back. I don't like just to jump in and jump on the bandwagon and agree with everything else people are saying. But I'm sure this might rub some people the wrong way, although I don't think it will. The hiking community is not like that. So it's just interesting articles. I'll chuck them up on the show notes, have a read of them. But it's interesting conversation. And as far as I'm concerned, the more places around Australia that are named, after influential indigenous tribes or people, or people, or white settlers who actually made a positive difference and did the right thing, then that's fine by me.
Yeah, sounds like a good move.
It's interesting. So,
wow.
Yeah. It's a tricky one, right?
Yeah. So that's the renaming, the cancel culture. But I guess there are some real strong points there, man. That's good.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, but I like it. I like what they've done. If you want to talk controversial, this one will get me going. This one will divide the pack. You know the Into the Wild story? There's a film made about it.
Yeah.
And which was from when I say a good book, it was a very good read. It was very well researched, well written. I enjoyed the book. I didn't enjoy the way that the main character, Chris, conducted himself. I think it was reckless. Look, I can go on all day and people are going to argue with me and say, man, he had wanderlust and he was a free spirit and all of this. And, he was all of those things. But I just think you got to be careful where you lay your, like who you want to kind of put on a pedestal. And so anyway, they've moved the bus that he traveled out to. He found the bus. He didn't know it was there. He was finding a place to make camp. He found the bus, started living in the bus. No problems there, but he ends up dying out there in the bus.
Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler, but I don't have a problem with any of that. He lived his life to the fullest. I don't have a problem with any of that. What I've got a problem with, people idolizing him have gone to go and visit the bus to get some selfies and died. People have died. I don't know what the count is at the moment. I should have Googled it, but it's at least 4 people have died.
Yeah.
2 separate groups. Yeah. Died, drowned, trying to cross the river to get to the bus, to hang out at the bus. So they've taken the bus and they've moved it, to more of a place where you can visit it and go, oh yeah, that's the bus, but you don't have to go and kill yourself or almost kill yourself to see it anymore.
Jeez.
So yeah.
So they've removed it after deaths, it says.
That's why they moved it, because too many people were dying. I don't know what the death count was. I talked about this in a podcast maybe nearly a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, and the count was 4 or 6 people. So I don't know what it is now, but I'm happy. I'm glad they moved it, because the problem is inexperienced people are going out there. People that don't understand the wilderness are trying to go out there to hang out at this place because they saw the movie or read a cool book. Now the bus is in a safer place. They can just drive to it, get a selfie, and go home. I think it's better. That's my opinion.
Yeah. It says here a pair of deaths, so there might only be 2, but...
No, I think it's a pair, as in 2 people died on one and 2 people died on another. Yeah. So there's definitely
numerous rescues and a pair of deaths in the last decade. But that's, I get your point, man. I get your point.
Let's say I'm wrong and it is two people. It's 2 people too many, and they went out there purely to visit this bus because they kind of idolized the story. So yeah, again, geez, I'm really just ripping it up. On a lighter note, well, it's not a lighter note, it's another depressing note.
Good, keep it coming.
June 21st, we missed World Naked Hiking Day again. Again, we talked about this last year. On the podcast, we talked about it and we missed it. You know, the problem is I see the articles come up after the fact. Why isn't anybody writing an article in May saying, hey, you've only got 4 weeks to get your body in shape because it's World Nude Hiking Day? Then I'd go, oh, Craig, start doing some push-ups, man. We've got 4 weeks to get ready.
4 weeks to get ready.
And
we could have,
easily could have got the gear off.
The mind boggles.
Boggles it does.
Anyway, I'm really disappointed. Really upset. I'm concerned that we'll miss it again next year.
I literally am considering putting something in my phone a month out, and
right,
go hiking. Imagine the awesome photos we could get.
No, that's
I'm just kind of thinking down the lines of what's it, like the Austin Powers, where he's naked and he's walking through the apartment and then there's things conveniently blocking out parts that you shouldn't show on Instagram. And I'm thinking, you could have like the hiking stove just accidentally positioned, or a hiking pole perhaps. I don't know.
Oh, I don't think it's going to work out like that, man. I don't think so.
Watch this space in 12 months' time. A little under 12 months. Okay, yeah. Yeah, disappointed. I'm just loading up a page here. I got to show you this, Craig. Look at this thing. You know I like frogs.
That's another one of those angry frog things.
Yeah. No, this one's, sure, he's cute, but he's got this war cry that he does when he's kind of threatened. So you think, oh wow, he's so cute. He couldn't hurt a fly. You want to hear him? I don't know if the listeners. I'll put the video in the show notes. Mm-hmm. They might hear it if I turn it right up. Listen to this guy. Ready? Yeah. So you think, oh wow, look at this cute frog. I'm going to poke it with a stick. Okay?
Yeah.
And then this.
What? Sounds like my kids.
Oh, it is the best thing ever. Look at his face.
That's not real, is it?
It's 100% real.
Real?
It even says, yes, this is real.
Does
Here, yes, it's 100% real. It's funny because they say it has it terrifies any predator within the radius of its haunting roar.
Yeah, totally.
Native to South Africa and Namibia.
Okay.
This little warrior lives on the beach. Wow. Mostly it chills underground, digging burrows in the moist sand.
That's why I love your show notes, man. I come back sometimes and look at these crazy things.
That's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Loved it, mate. I actually laughed out loud at that when I first saw it. So I kind of got suckered into that story. Here's a good news story. Not that the predator frog wasn't. New South Wales has purchased this a cattle station. For our overseas listeners, I guess a ranch, a very, very big cattle ranch. It's the state's largest single property purchase that 100% is going straight to National Park.
Good.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's the largest block of private land bought for a national park in the state's entire history. 153,415 hectare station. It's in the northwest corner of New South Wales. So that's not too far from us, hey Craig. So hopefully we should be able to get out there one day. It's near where the dog-proof fence is.
Yeah.
If you convert that, I did a conversion of that to acres. So we're talking 379,000 acres.
That's a lot, Abe. Yeah.
That's a lot.
So
that's bigger than your backyard.
It is a bit bigger. That's pretty dry territory out in that northwest.
And it does have, but here's the thing, it does have wetlands. So it says this area is home to 25 threatened species and valuable wetlands, which is fantastic because that's all under protection immediately. Then it also has significant Aboriginal artifacts and this one's crazy, campsites that were used by Burke and Wills.
Unbelievable, really?
Yeah, all on that one property. So
Yeah,
Burke and Wills were, Craig, how's your history memory? They were the guys who were the first ones to go over the Great Dividing Range to explore the possibilities of crops and cattle. So they're basically the first people to get through there. That's my understanding of Burke and Wills.
Okay, yep, I think that's exactly right. And then
I did a school project on it, so I hope that's right. Anyway, they're kind of famous explorers, and just to be clear, I'm pretty sure they didn't do any bad stuff. Okay.
So we're mentioning these old guys.
Yeah, mentioning these guys, saying what heroes they were.
Probably
no,
not
I don't
heroes.
think they did anything wrong.
Yeah, because I know that there was lots of learning about explorers that went from the southern to the northern part of Australia. That was not them.
No, Burke and Wills. Correct, yeah. Burke and Wills were the ones that were the first to go west, conquer the Great Dividing Range, which runs a linear through the east coast of Australia.
Yeah, because everyone talks about Burke and Wills, eh?
Oh yeah, I dressed up as Burke and Wills.
I got a
for
tattoo
my project
of Burke and Wills.
Oh, that's great. I'm not going to ask where. Thanks. I guess we'll find out next year in Nude Hiking Day.
Yeah.
You should have fact-checked Burke and Wills before you got the tattoo.
I know. Hey, do they have like canyons out in that national park or any sort of like
I'm not sure.
Significant.
They didn't really.
We'll have to go and check
in
it
the
out.
article. What I'm expecting is in the, because that article was only. I mean, this stuff is current, guys. It was only about 2 weeks ago. So what I expect is more people will catch wind of this and more articles will come out and other people will cover different details about the property. You know, maybe someone will go out there and actually take some footage or photographs.
Awesome.
Because I'd love to know more about it, because I'd definitely go out there.
Yeah, that is one of those good news stories, and it is our backyard really, because
100%.
4 or 5 hours, maybe a little bit more.
Maybe a little bit more, but definitely that's big stuff we're talking about there. That's cool. Hey, something interesting happened, Craig, and I will get to shout outs a bit later, but we had, and it's a long story, but I'll go into it later, as I said. Let me get the names straight, because I'm so good. Al or Alex. He sent me a message and asked me, why don't I just tell the whole story instead of backtracking? Okay, let me just tell the whole story. I get this message from, it's actually, it seems to be a lot of people at the moment that they think it's hilarious to write to me and then clarify their gender, because then the mistake I made with Robin, which in my lifetime was a predominantly female name, and I said on the podcast that we got a email from her, only to find out live on our Q&A podcast that he kept saying, I'm a he, and so on live podcast with people listening, that all went down. It's pretty funny. So
you made a mistake, Tom. It's okay.
I made a huge mistake. It seems people like to twist the knife on this one. Okay. So yeah, when Robin writes now, it's in brackets, male.
Sir Robin.
So then Joe, remember the Englishman in Germany, the UK guy in Germany? And don't worry, I talked about him on the last podcast, I think. He sends a very nice email. So what's happened is, this seems to be a bit of a common theme too, is it's cool amongst friends to get a mention on this podcast, right?
Is it?
Yeah, apparently so. So Al, or Alex, in brackets, in his message, male, and he even put in brackets, my friend, I'm a friend of Joe, the Englishman in Germany, in brackets, male. So he was kind of jealous because Joe got a shout out, and Joe sent him the podcast and said, check this out, I got a shout out. So he's written to me and go, I want a shout out.
All right.
As well. And so, well, you got it, Joe.
Alex.
The funny, you got it, Alex. Thanks, Craig. That's what you were here for. So, but the funny thing is that he's listening to the podcast backwards, and that's something that Joe keeps giving him crap about. He's, what are you listening backwards for? And Al has this kind of semi-lame excuse that that's the way that the player plays them. And I...
In reverse, or what do you mean?
I joked with him. I said, it doesn't surprise me an Englishman listening to podcasts backwards. So there you go, guys. You got your shout out.
There you go.
The two of those are hopefully catching up at the end of the month and doing a bike packing trip, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Cool.
Enjoy, guys. Stay safe. Then, so now I get to the story. So then, Alex, not happy enough with the shout out on the podcast, then asked me a very strange request. And he said, oh, hey, Tom, I run this, we do this quiz between all these friends around the world. Can you come up with some quiz questions? So I did. I wrote 2 questions for him. And I said to him when I sent the last one, I said, you actually kind of give me an idea. I might start doing that on the podcast. So here it is. New segment, mate.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. So I'm going to ask a question now, and I'll tell you the answer right before we jump to our guest. So basically at the end. But your job, Craig, is to remind me to tell them the answer, or else they'll be left hanging.
Okay, cool.
Are you ready for the question? Yep. And if you know this, and you most probably will, if you know this, you're not allowed to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
But we're interested to know what you think.
Okay, cool.
Australia is home to let me start that all again. Australia is home to the last 2 egg-laying mammals on the entire planet, and the only 2 living species in the Monotremata order. What are they? Do you think you know the answer to this? Remember, you're not allowed to say it. I just kind of wondering if you think you do.
I think I do.
Okay, well, we'll find out later. Just I'm going to write on this notepad here, quiz, because I don't want to forget to give them the answer. Hope I can remember the answers. Yeah, pretty cool, hey?
Yeah. All right.
So I think I might just do that a bit. See how it brings a bit of...
Test the brain.
While people are listening to us speak rubbish about other things, they can be ticking over that in their head.
Yeah, well, we can't go to our quiz nights at the moment, so here you go.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty cool idea they had, actually.
Awesome.
Hey, Craig, if I was talking about such things as espresso martini, fruit fusion, salted caramel, peppermint, you'd think, wow, that sounds like a delicious list of dessert ingredients, would you not?
Yep.
Yeah.
I know where you're going with this.
Very good. They are actually some of the scents and flavors that you can get from our episode sponsor, Jericho Australia.
Yeah.
I have talked about these guys last sponsor. It's a veteran-owned business. They produce handmade beard grooming products. They use all natural ingredients, beard butters and balms and oils and waxes. Fantastic stuff. I've been using it since way before the last podcast. So probably almost getting on to 2 months now. They've set up a promo code. So if you go to jerichoaustralia.com and check out all the stuff there, if you use the promo code HikeordieTV, one word, all capitals, like it should be written, then you'll get 15% off your order.
Mate, I've been getting a little bit scruffier, right? And I just thought maybe you'd bring some of that stuff over.
Well,
I'm just saying. Or I'll just use the promo code and get my own.
No, I don't think. Well, I don't know if there's any.
I'm not there.
Yeah, I just don't know if it's worth you getting any yet.
Right.
You are getting scruffy, but I'm still wouldn't kind of. I don't think you're in the ballpark of beard. Just in the ballpark of I've got some dirt on my face.
I was afraid you were going to say that.
Yeah, anyway, thanks to the guys at Jericho Australia. Jump on there and get some good gear. Tom's Magical Mystery Media Mashup.
Oh, yeah.
I have been reading a bit. I've been watching a bit. But out of all that, I've only really got 2 pretty cool things to kind of share with you. One is this absolutely magnificent video I'm just playing for Craig at the moment. It's an Arctic fox cub in Greenland, and this wildlife photographer, Stefan Forster. So I discovered this clip, and then from there I discovered his other clips. But this is a cub that I mean, it doesn't look that old. It's never seen a human. It's coming right up and sniffing his boots. Later on, it comes up and bites the lens cover. Watch this. Just had a little nip on there. Yeah. The most gorgeous thing you've ever seen.
Awesome.
It's a 1 minute clip that will just make your day. It's so cool. So yeah, I'll put that in there.
Gee, that's a good find, man. I love that.
That's cool, eh?
That's great.
And he in the clip, he's kind of talking to it and laughing and stuff. Now, what I noticed, so this is kind of cool, because what happened was then I clicked on, who is this guy? Clicked on his other stuff, and I don't know if anyone out there has ever heard of Stefan Forster, but I'm telling you now, like, his stuff is spectacular. It's all kind of drone stuff, and check this out, Craig. Like, spectacular Greenland
Wow.
stuff where he's putting his drone up and above icebergs and glaciers.
Gee, that's remote, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible. He's a real artist, the way he's putting these shots together. So yeah, there's another 2 videos, and I'll put them on the show notes page as well, because they go for around 9 minutes or whatever, and they are breathtaking. Right now we're watching this drone fly between upright pieces of kind of icebergs. It's really cool. It is very worth looking at. Take a few minutes. Look at that. That's actually tipping over while he's filming.
Jeez.
So look at this iceberg.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible, hey? So yeah, really spectacular stuff. And I found it through seeing that little Arctic Fox video. So
Yeah.
a couple of good finds there.
Totally.
Definitely, I know people will enjoy that.
Is that it for your media mashup?
No. Have we talked about Scotty's Gone Walkabout before? It's a YouTube channel. Are you familiar with him?
I don't think so, man. What is it?
He's pretty cool guy. I got a feeling that I think one of our listeners wrote an email to us. I think it was Mark. And I think that Mark might have said that he liked Scotty's Gone Walkabout. I could be totally wrong, but someone else has told me about this guy, and I watched this. He did an overnighter, his first solo canoe overnighter, and it's just a really cool video. It goes for it's an hour. This guy doesn't muck around, but he gets into a little bit of bushcraft, and he'll kind of make a little tripod or something for his pot to hang off. He falls somewhere. I guess he falls closer to bushcraft than hiking, because he'll use. We're just watching a clip here at the moment, and he's setting up a tarp. He just sleeps under a tarp most of the time.
Oh, yep.
And he'll have a fire there, and he'll cook on the fire rather than using a stove like we do. So yeah, he's definitely, but he's just a real easygoing dude. Just a nice bloke, and the stuff's interesting. My kids love it. They watched it last week, and then next thing you know, they're packing their backpacks to go and sleep out in the backyard.
So I was thinking about something else when you started talking. Does he? Where's he from?
He's Australian.
Yeah, right.
I couldn't tell you where he's from.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's the first comment here is, why would you even bother hitting the dislike button on a video like this?
No,
true story.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it?
It's long content. It's an hour, and I think it's a good hour. I watched it with my boys. I'd argue that some of his cinematography, he does a great job on setting up shots, especially when he's kicking around. I think he's got a drone he throws up sometimes too. He's doing the whole cooking thing. No, it's good content. It's better than TV shows I've seen, put it that way. So yeah, check out Scotty's Gone Walkabout.
There's a new consumer drone on the market, man.
Is there?
Yes.
Is it made by the same guys who are kicking everything out?
Yes. It's very good.
Is it?
I think so. Yeah.
What's the difference?
It's a tiny bit heavier than what I carry at the moment, but
does it still fold up?
Yeah, it does fold up. It folds up like the larger versions, but it's got an extra good battery in it, so it'll go a lot longer in the sky. And
How long's that?
I think it goes over 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And it's very quiet.
Same kind of footage?
Better.
What's quiet? The motors, the props, or
the props? So it's actually how they spin through the air. It's the shape of them that makes it the noise, I believe.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Yeah, it's not the motor; it's the way it cuts through the air.
Yeah, that buzzing sound.
Yeah, which is annoying as hell.
Yeah, and it's so many people have a problem with drones when they're hanging out in beautiful places, and then you hear these things go up, and I understand why. When we use it, I don't think there's ever been another person around when we've used yours in the wild.
That's it.
But yeah, quite a drone. There's nothing wrong with that. Interesting.
Hey, can I tell you some media?
Yeah, of course you can.
I've got a confession.
What?
I don't think you're going to like this.
You're scaring me.
You're not going to like this. I love that you kind of started this thing about media, about reading some books as initially, right? And I thought,
how stupid's that?
What's that stupid? That's not cool. That's not cool, reading. And, I think that the fundamental gesture there I miss with what I'm about to say is that I have subscribed to a audio book service.
Is that right?
Yes.
And have you listened to a book yet?
Yes, I have. So I listened to a couple of books, and I guess that's not the same as reading. But in my defense...
it's not the same as reading, 100%. No. But it is a consumption of ideas. So it still falls into our media mashup.
All right.
For sure. It's just freaking lazy.
It's freaking lazy. It's freaking lazy.
But hey, that's cool.
Disgusting habit I have. And
what did you listen to?
Well, in my defense, I know that you'll appreciate this aspect is that I actually own this on Blu-ray, but I have not yet watched. And so I'm reading it prior to watching.
You're not reading anything. You're listening. Stop telling people you're reading books. You're listening to it prior to watching.
Prior to watching the film. So the first one was it's called Jungle. It's a book by Yossi Ginsberg, who now lives in Australia. Have you heard about this film? Have you heard about this book, Jungle?
Are you talking about Andrew G?
No, I'm not talking about that. Yossi Ginsberg.
Well, I thought you just mispronounced it.
No, I did not mispronounce.
Who is this person?
Yossi Ginsberg. So it's. Do you know Daniel Radcliffe, who was Harry Potter?
Yep.
He played the lead character in the film, but I haven't seen it yet.
In what film?
Jungle.
Oh, okay.
And it's about this guy who got seriously lost.
Oh, I saw a preview.
Yeah.
I've seen a preview because they end up going down these rapids.
In the Amazon. So he gets... Yeah, he gets messed up, and it's brutal apparently. So, I don't know. I don't know if people may have just seen the film, and some people may not have liked it.
Don't give any spoilers.
Oh, no spoilers, but I'm just saying I don't know if the film's that great, but the book was pretty interesting to listen to, and it was a pretty awesome journey he went through. So
this is a true story.
Absolutely true, and he now lives in Australia.
I feel like I need to get this book before I watched the movie.
That's what I thought you'd appreciate.
Yeah, I'm not going to listen to it.
Because there's some parts of that, me listening to this, I'm going, they can't put that in the film. I mean, that's just not. And so I'm interested now to watch the film. And the second audio book that I listened to, Dave Canterbury. Bushcraft 101.
You listened to a book on bushcraft.
But I'll tell you, hang on, bear with me.
Did you have to explain the pictures?
A little bit. And I'll tell you that, firstly, it had me because the introduction, all of a sudden they're talking about Les Hiddens. the bush tucker man.
The bush tucker man.
And just getting
legendary
into
Les.
where this all comes from. And then, you know what? I've got a reference on my phone now that is pretty awesome, man. That's a really cool book. It's got heaps of stuff in it, and at any point I can reference it. It's very good. I don't know, it's a handbook that a lot of people have, probably in hard copy.
Yeah, it's a cool book. I don't own that one, but I have seen on his Instagram and stuff he's advertising it.
No doubt. So everything from how to select the right type of ropes to take with you, and what he just carries in a pack, and what's necessary, and how to build shelters and stuff. It's really good. Yeah,
he's a pretty cool guy. He knows his stuff.
Right.
I like his demeanor. I like his approach. He's not over the top or anything. He's just kind of laid back. He's a pretty cool dude. Good on you, Dave.
Anyway, I'll stop doing the audiobook thing. I just kind of...
you don't have to stop.
I just kind of,
Ultimately, if it's going to lift your rate of intelligence, you need to be getting onto that.
Yeah.
Don't want you not to listen and learn. No. So, very good. Hey, you'll appreciate this. Our friend Robin, the male, sent us an email. We were talking about him earlier.
Yep.
He sent us an email, and I hope I get this right. I get so many messages, I mix everyone up in my head from the time I read them to when I get on air. It's very difficult for me. I believe Robin and his family are from Belgium, but they're in Sweden managing some cottages, some accommodation there. That's my take on it. We were talking about, the little stove that you mentioned, Craig. A couple of...
Yeah, the timber one that I...
Yeah. So Robin was listening to that podcast and said, hey, you really should check out this thing called the Happy Stove. He sent me a link to it. I thought, I'll share that with you on the podcast. It's based more on a hobo stove in that it completely folds up flat. So look at that. It folds up flat and goes in that pouch.
Oh, that's cool.
And then when you pull it apart, it's there's the big bad stove. So they punch a face into one side of it where you feed in the sticks.
It probably look evil when it's lit up, right?
Yeah. So there's one that's bigger.
Yeah.
And it's called the big bad stove, and it's got a kind of angry face with teeth. And the Happy Stove is
I see. Yeah, that's cool.
Just a little, and he thought that you would appreciate that, given the conversation. There it is, there in flat lay. That's all you take, and it's real thin and light.
Oh.
So
yeah, I remember I was going to get that, and then lockdown happened, and I've just been distracted.
Maybe you should check out.
Maybe I should change my direction. I'm just trying to remember what exactly that other one was, because it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was in I can't remember which episode it was now. But yeah, I think he's onto something there. Stick the little sticks in its mouth. He said it gives him endless laughs when he has to feed it.
Yeah, it would be.
Something else he said, and what if I was a really good host, I would have actually gone back and listened to that podcast where we spoke about the stove. But what Robin says is he wasn't quite sure if he got my point. I'm not sure if it was you or I talking about it. But at some point we were talking about not being able to to use sticks and light these little wood burning stoves in national parks, right?
Yep.
So I think I probably didn't articulate that. There's a couple of points that I was hitting there, and I think I may have said at some point, you don't want to be picking up little twigs and stuff off the ground because it's obviously habitat and it's mulch. It breaks down and feeds the forest. But the point I was that I think is probably bigger than that is the point that in national parks in Australia you're not allowed to have open fires, open flames. They don't consider stoves open flames unless you're in a camping ground. They've got a fire pit. You're allowed to have a fire. So I think I may have confused listeners there with those 2 points, because Robin made a really good point. He said, if you're just worried about the effect on the environment of taking little twigs out of the national park to burn, then consider the carbon footprint of the fuel canisters that we use. And he's 100% correct there.
Absolutely.
2,000% correct. You think about the shipping and the gas and stuff and the metal that you used in that, and then you throw it in the bin when it's empty because you can't refill it. So as I said, I didn't listen back to that to find out where I misled listeners. But just to be clear, my number one, I definitely agree with what Robin's saying. My number one issue was we can't have open flames like that unless we're on private property. And then I may have made a comment somewhere about, you don't want to be going burning logs and stick and stuff that that would break down and give nutrition to the environment. I think it's as simple as that. But
I think it's against the rules, to have those sort of.
Yeah, they're just not. You just can't have them
in the national parks.
Unfortunately, now. Jerry sent us a message on Instagram. This is funny because Jerry is online right now. That's hilarious.
Is Jerry a man or a woman?
Man, he doesn't say.
How do you know?
You should put in brackets, man, because because I don't know anymore. Everyone that writes to me has names that could be either. Anyway, Jerry's this will be funny if he writes back. Can you hear that typing? The reason I really like Jerry's message because he said he stumbled across the podcast recently and loves it. His banter keeps us laughing. That's probably mostly because we don't know what we're talking about. Information's valuable. So he says he grew up loving the outdoors, but in inverted commas, lost myself during my 30s and 40s. I finally found me again, and I was hiking when I was hiking in the mountains of Colorado. I'm 50 now, getting prepared to try an actual multi-night backpacking trip with my brother in a few months. Just want to let you guys know that I dig what you guys do and what you share. Thank you. Thanks so much for taking the time to write the message, Jerry. That's really cool. And mate, I'm really happy to hear that after, basically 20 years not in the wilderness that you're founding, and that's the best news ever. Second best is that you enjoy the podcast. So yeah, thanks for taking the time to write. I do appreciate it. I literally just sent you a message saying, hey mate, we're just talking about you now.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that'll make sense to him when he hears this. So yeah, thanks mate. I do appreciate it. Appreciate everyone that reaches out to us. That was one thing that I always say. I always make an effort to get back to people. And when talking about Al or Alex, the male, earlier, he said, "Oh wow, you really do write back to people." I said, "Yeah, I do." Well, something interesting is by the time this goes to air, remember our last guest, Chase Tucker, had the Elements training programs?
Yep, sure.
He was giving away 5 to lucky winners.
Right.
By the time this goes to air,
yep,
though he should have, or we, not exactly sure who, will have got in touch with you by then, got your details,
Oh, that's good.
yeah, so you'll have your elements training program, which is pretty good timing.
You haven't got any names. You can't do a big.
No, not right now.
They haven't signed consent anyway, so you probably can't announce them publicly.
Yeah, I just I'd love to just announce them now, but I just got to go back and forth with Chase and solidify that. So he'll get in touch with them
very soon. Watch this space.
And I guess because what happened was one of our listeners wrote on his Instagram, mate, love the podcast so much, I've decided to just buy it anyway. So, which is a fantastic gesture, yeah. And so there could be other people that we go and say, hey, you've won the elements, and they say, don't worry about it, I already bought it.
Yeah, that's it. Cool.
So it's a bit tricky that. And that's about, I think I've actually got everything covered for once, which would be pretty nice. What do you think about that? You got anything else to add before we go to our...
No, well, you just mentioned that. I was actually a bit quiet there when you were reading that that message from someone who was, lost touch with nature.
Oh, yeah.
And came back, and I thought you were about to lead into our chat with Tom Fabbri, and I don't know. I guess that it is really good to chat with him, and you guys are about to listen to it, and I really think that I'm looking forward to hiking getting outdoors until I'm in my 60s and 70s, and I've got clients who do that, and I want to do that too. And so it was really great to hear that he's got such a positive outlook on life and on never getting old and on pushing himself to his limits, eh?
Yeah, he's and I think what you might be referring to there is he definitely lost his way for a decade or so, and he's brutally honest and open about that. And the more you get into this podcast, the more he starts to reveal, and it really opens up. It is like Craig said, it's nothing but a positive story. This is a guy who was once living out of his car, and now he's completed 6 of the 7 summits, which is when people set out to summit the highest peak on each continent. So he's done 6 of the 7th. He's training up for Everest now. And then he's going to complete the Adventure Grand Slam by adding the North and South Pole. So it's incredible to hear where he came from and where he's at. Before I jump into that, though, Craig, you didn't remind me, did you?
I'm like a goldfish, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, thank goodness I've got the big word here in a circle that says quiz.
What's the quiz? Come on.
Echidna and platypus.
Oh, yeah.
The last 2 egg-laying mammals on the planet. Echidna and platypus.
You know what I was going to say, which is so stupid, so I shouldn't tell anyone.
Probably should say it.
No, I actually got platypus, but I...
Just say it.
I kind of thought that the...
Kangaroo.
The emu might be a mammal for a minute.
Oh, my goodness. There's a lot of editing out to do in this.
No.
Sorry, I just... That's good. Yeah, it's got feathers. Everyone Google what an emu looks like and then tell me if you think it looks like a mammal. Okay, I don't want to take the shine. I didn't want to miss giving you the quiz answer. Stay tuned for a new one in the next podcast. It's a really good one too. The next quiz question in the next podcast, unbelievable. It's multiple choice. Okay, I don't want to. Let's just go back. I don't want to take the shine off what we were talking about, Tom. Wrap it up real quick. Fantastic conversation with him. We covered so much, and I would advise you to stick with it because it gets better and better and better and deeper and more honest as it goes on. It's cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, Craig, if that's it, mate, I'm going to leave these guys in peace and let them jump into the conversation with Tom Fabbri. Tom Fabbri, thanks very much for joining us on the podcast, mate. It's a pleasure already.
Yeah, thank you, Tim and Craig.
You're close. It's Tom and Craig.
Okay.
There's two Toms, mate. That's where the confusion lies.
Yeah, I think so. And plus, it's early. So.
It's a bit of a Tom party going on here.
It is a bit of a
Tom squared.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be confusing for our listeners to pick which one's me and which one's you.
No,
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
One's clearly more intelligent.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Hey, mate, Tom, one of the things that I struggled with was when I was kind of going through what you are about, all the things you've accomplished, was how do we even introduce this person, because there's so many strings to your bow, if I can put it that way. I have heard how you kind of describe yourself. Would you like to tell us how you do that?
Well, I like to think of myself as this modern day adventurer, but the biggest thing for me is overcoming adversities in life. And, I think we all struggle with fears. And so, I've found my purpose and my mission in life and what I'm really passionate about. And that's inspiring other people to live their best lives. And so in order for me to do that, I have to live my best life. And so that's kind of it in a nutshell. And the way I do it is through living my dream life, if that makes sense. My dream life is living by my rules, by what I dream about, and going out and pursuing those dreams. And that includes, flying jets, flying helicopters, travel, which to me is the greatest learning experience that we have, because of the diversities of peoples, and, we live on an amazing planet, and travel has opened my eyes and opened amazing doors for me. And facing our fears. And I believe most people, we all have fears, right? Let's start with that. We all have fears. And what happens is, if you want to start a business or start a family or go like hiking or something, people have fears about those things and they shrink back and they don't pursue them.
Yep.
And I'm a guy who I struggled early on in my life. I don't know if you know my whole story, but
perhaps not the whole story, but it's something I was definitely going to dig down into that for sure at some point. Yeah, now's as good a time as any.
Dig deep. Dig deep, bro.
I think that, and I'm sure you get this all the time. I've definitely picked up a bit of a thread through when I've done my research on you. But there is that kind of, how would you say it? That people are looking at you now, and it seems that they are struggling to understand how this person that they're seeing, conquer these summits on many continents around the world, amongst other things, used to live out of his car. I mean, I think that's difficult for people to, if you just if I just make that statement, I think it's difficult for people to say, hang on a second, I don't understand how the two of these things could ever be the same person. And I think that's, I guess that's where I'd like to kind of start the conversation is how does somebody who's that down or that far down then come that far back?
Yeah, and I've been down farther, bro.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure. And I don't mind. Actually, I love talking about it, but I've been down farther in jail multiple times.
Wow. Do you mind me? I'm just, and my listeners will know this. I'm just pretty much a straight shooter. You can just tell me to shut up at any point. But do you mind? I'm just an inquisitive mind. And when someone says to me, "I've been in jail a few times," I go, "Whoa! Can you just rewind that a bit? And can we get a bit of
back up?"
I just want to know. Do you mind talking about what sorts of things? I mean, you don't have to go into the detail you're comfortable with, Tom. But I just want to kind of get. I'm trying to build this picture.
Yeah, how'd that happen, man?
Well, I'll tell you, I am totally transparent. And that's the only way that I'm able to, I own my story.
Yep.
Okay. And my story is a great story. And that's why I'm here with you guys. You know, I've been doing lots of podcasts, all over the world,
just
from my home here in New York.
Practicing up for this one, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For Tom and Craig. Right?
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. Hey, it's good. It's good. And it really is telling my story. And when I started to own my story, that's when I realized I have this gift to talk to people and mentor people. It just kind of happened organically, right? When you start being transparent and being vulnerable and telling your truth, and because I had this vision, this was years ago. I had this vision, and I had been through some real shit, let me tell you, and but I saw a bigger picture for my life of speaking, writing books, and just being this global, that was one piece, global adventurer. And I was having a conversation with my cousin, Dan Moriarty, who lives in LA, and he used to have his own TV show. And he's like, "Hey, bro," he's like, "I wish I had your story." I'm like, "What?" Yeah, and I'll just give you, I've been down in the dirt, okay? I've been in and out of jail multiple times. I've been homeless, lived in my car. I've been married and lost everything 3 times, bro. 3 times, And I can joke about it now, and it's okay. And there's a story behind that. My father had to come and bail me out of jail a couple of times, When I was in the service, they asked me to leave. I was getting into trouble all the time. But I turned it all around, I mean, when I was in a little kid, 5, 6, 7 years old, I used to dream of being this adventure guy. Remember the show? I don't know if you guys actually saw it, but you probably heard the name Jacques Cousteau.
Oh, he's a dead set legend. I grew up on that stuff.
Yeah, and I used to watch that when I was a little kid, and I was like, man, how can this old skinny Frenchman, he's traveling the world, diving around the world, making films and speaking in books, and I was like, wow. That's what I want to do, but I want to do it in my way.
Yeah. He was so honest and transparent. And I think that's a point that you just made before. If you want to start a conversation there, then you're almost showing a vulnerability that then allows your listener to open up a little to what you've got to say.
Absolutely, because when I'm talking to a crowd or I'm talking to individuals who want to change their life, I tell them, go back to when you were a child and when you had no limitations on your life, right? Because you're just dreaming. You want to be this, a baseball player, a sports figure, or a
fireman,
whatever, a movie star. I mean, just whatever, an astronaut, and that's how I used to dream. But that was taken away from me by, my parents, my school teachers, and then when I was getting bullied in high school, and then I became a bully, So
is that where it loops back to the prison sort of thing? Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. In my earlier years, like I said, the beatings at home, the neglect at home, and then being bullied through high school. So I had to overcome those things. So I became a wrestler and I started lifting weights, and then I saw the power in that. But because of the drinking and the drugs, I became a bully. And that's where I started. I was in a gang, and we used to, there was gang fighting, and that's where the jail started. And it just continued on for years. I'd say up until I was about 28 years old.
Right.
And I was
the military during that? Was the military during that time? Just slightly before that time, wasn't it?
Yeah. My father, I really didn't graduate high school. They let me go through the ceremony.
Right.
But I got a blank diploma. When I opened up the folder, there was nothing in it. They let me walk through the ceremony.
Oh, that's very kind of them.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Thank you. But my father told me, he's like, you need to either get out of the house, join the service, go to college, or get a job. And so I didn't have any skills. I went to college for 2 weeks, and I'm like, what the heck am I doing here? I have no idea. I joined the service.
What was it about the college life that when you say you don't know what you're doing there, can you unpack that a little bit for us?
Sure. I mean, I was only there for 2 weeks, and I was sitting in class, and I just had no clue what was going on. I'm like sitting at my desk, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here.
Do you remember what subjects they were? Do you remember what sort of subjects you were studying?
Sure. I signed up for an engineering course because I thought, that'll please my parents and that'll be cool. Okay. But it's like, it's just like, is this false narrative that I was telling myself and telling everybody else that, I'm taking engineering in college. Like, that's BS, So I just left. I did, and I went down to see the recruiter and joined the Navy.
Right.
And then I was on my way, but I was a troublemaker. I believe I was still a good kid at heart. But what I was really doing, I was fighting out all my angers that had, when you're beaten as a kid and you're bullied and, I was just a skinny little kid back in the day, and it's like, why? What did I do wrong? But what happened was I took my angers out on everybody. And that's where like the drinking and drugging comes into play, and then, wanting to fight everybody just to prove to myself,
Yeah, I think there's a false economy there. I think people think that being masculine and being manly is kind of that dominating other people, whereas I think, and I'm sure you'd agree, having progressed so far in your life, that I think that being a man is so many other things besides that or rather than not that, and
100%.
things like empathy and being able to kind of openly show love and kindness and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Later on, when I had my son, that's when I had two rules when my son was born.
Yep.
And that was forgiveness and love. And that was it. That's how I raised my son, forgiveness and love. And, there were no beatings, there were no no's. I wouldn't say no. I'd explain something to my son if I didn't want him to, do something. But I gave him a lot of rope. I gave him a lot of rope to go do what he needed to do as a child or whatever. I mean, obviously, I'm just not going to let him, here's the keys to the car, when you're 4 years old and go driving away. But, but I'd be the guy that, I took him up in the helicopter and in the jet and, so I exposed him to things that would help him, and I wanted to nurture him because it's not my job I brought him into this world, but I'm just kind of like the rudder of the ship and just try to help him navigate life. But I do that by living my life.
Yeah.
Right. It's his life. And I have to walk my talk.
Yeah.
Right? I have to be empathetic. Although empathy is one of these things where you can never really put your feet into somebody else's shoes because you'll never understand fully what they're going through.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the having your son. I think that Craig and I got 6 kids between us, so it's,
not together.
Wow.
Not together. Yeah. I mean, if only.
It's okay. I'm cool with that, man.
We'd be cool with it too. They'd be pretty good kids. But so we definitely test you, and it does. I don't know, it puts you in a different frame of mind, and you realise for the first time, I think, in my life, I realised, oh, wow, everything is not about me. I didn't know that.
Actually, Tom, that's a really dark place to start your story, man. I didn't realise, actually, that you had such a history like that, so thanks for sharing that. And I guess it's a real contrast, isn't it, to sort of the heights you're able to achieve from such lows in the beginning. And I actually thought to myself I was going to ask you if you had any kids, because I figure he doesn't have any kids with all the stuff he's been able to achieve.
No. Well, I'll tell you a great story, because everybody can change their life. You can become, once you give yourself permission to dream, and once you start taking the limitations off your life, amazing things start to happen.
Yep.
And as I was raising my son, and he's got a lot of friends, and he went on to, through high school, play varsity football, varsity basketball, baseball, and he had a lot of kids, and a lot of the kids that he hung out with, didn't have good parenting. Right, and that's kind of like the norm these days.
Yep.
I mean, anybody is allowed to have children. So
yeah,
you need a license to go fishing or own a dog, but anybody can have kids, and that's so. But what happened was his friends saw what I was doing. I was a captain at a major airline. I'm flying helicopters. I was a competitive natural bodybuilder. And then I started writing books. And this was even before I got into the adventures. But I was at the gym one day, and one of my son's friends came up to me, and he would always ask me questions because he really didn't have a father figure.
Yep.
And so, and I knew that, and he would ask for advice, mostly advice on training, but then the conversations got a little bit deeper, right? On school and just life in general. Well, we had a long conversation one day in the gym, about an hour, and, we left. And later on that day, my son sent me a text message. He said, "Hey, Dad, I was talking with Zach, And Zach said to me, he's like, I wish your dad was my dad.
Awesome.
And that, see, I get emotional about that because
It's a heavy comment for many, many reasons.
and but it tells me the power of words, and that's why you can change. What I found out was you can change somebody's life just with a spoken word, right? And I'm like, wow, that just and that kind of changed a lot of things for me. And especially in the mentoring world, I mean, I don't go out and force myself on people. If they want advice, and what happens is, I'm doing that with a lot of people these days, a lot of young, I think the age seems to be around 28, 29, 30, where people
you get
are
a little bit, you get led astray. Not so much led astray. I think at that age I had difficulty in trying to focus on the next decade or where I was going. Absolutely.
Sure. I like to think of it as people almost have to re-educate themselves, because in their earlier years, most people haven't been educated properly. We've been educated the way society wants to see us.
100%.
Well, you got to be taking tests and prepare for college and go out and get a job and do those things instead of
nobody teaches you how to light a fire or throw an axe.
They don't.
I had to teach my sons myself.
That's.
I didn't even get paid.
Yeah, but that's true. That's true.
Hey,
So
something else I think you did for that Zach, which I mean, for me, what resonated with me was, I think not only did you use the power of the spoken word, but you also listened. I think that's something that a lot of people struggle to do. There's a scenario where Zach comes to you and you just start talking about yourself. That's not a conversation, right? But then there's a scenario where Zach comes to you and starts to kind of download, and you were receptive to that and speaking when you need to speak. I think that's a different way of having a conversation. People, I'd say, definitely younger people, I've noticed, struggle with communication full stop, and they struggle with listening to other people, I think.
They do. Communication is a lost art. I mean, that's in very simple terms. That's why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's unfortunate that if I was speaking to somebody and they're already formulating an answer or what they want to talk about, so they're not listening, and they may jump in on the conversation and step all over you. And I see that a lot. So, the best way to have a conversation is let the other person speak and just listen. And then they'll go away with, wow, I just had this great conversation with Tom, and you didn't say a word. All you did was listen.
No, I feel guilty for interrupting you now before.
Well, thank you for the apology. I was waiting for that.
He does
I got it in that story that you made up. I'm kidding. But there's again, we come to one of these monumental jumps in your history where we're talking about this guy who's in and out of jail, has his first child, and then all of a sudden we've got this guy who's climbed all of these mountains. Like, at what point did the outdoors, or at what point did adventure present itself as an option for you to grow?
It actually started. I had I was still in these troubling days, after the Navy asked me to leave. They're like, okay, Tom, we've had enough of you. Can you please leave? And so I was searching. I was big into diving. scuba diving.
Yep.
And I found out that you could become a commercial diver. There was a school in Houston, Texas, and I was like 22 years old, I believe.
Yep.
And so I packed up my gear and jumped in my car and went to Houston, Texas. I wanted to become a commercial diver. Mixed gas, heliox, underwater welding, cutting, going out to the North Sea and doing that. I'm like, wow, that's like kick ass. That's what I want to do. And so I finished school, and then I got sidetracked with a woman. And
we've all been there, right?
Yeah, we've been there.
Well, I've been down that road a few times, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
we'll get some tips on that after we stop recording, okay?
Yeah.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah, right? And so that dream kind of faded away, but it's actually coming back around these days. But it,
Well, you had that original. Is that connected in any way to the kind of the moonlighting with the idea of the Jacques Cousteau sort of a career?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
Exactly. But it was, like I said, when I was a little kid, I would dream of being this adventurer, and that included flying. Mm-hmm. But as you get a little bit older and people start taking away your dreams and telling you no, all that goes away, but it was still deep down inside of me. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to start pursuing my dreams. But I was still, through my own fault, right? Through nobody else's fault. I take full responsibility for all of my actions. And so, still getting into trouble. I actually, when I was about 23 years old, I don't know if you know what a DUI is or a DWI.
Yeah. It's similar over here. Yeah, Craig knows all about him. I mean, he's
all the
time, mate. Yeah.
Well, I know you fellas down there in Australia, and you're drinking those big beers, So
that's why
or whatever it is.
That's it, man. Yeah, that's why we have bench seats. So the middle seat is an armrest. It's a carton of beer instead of an armrest.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I was still partying heavily, and I was up at a party at a college visiting my younger brother. And after the party, like 3 a.m., I jumped in the car and I was driving back to my parents' house, and I was going down the highway, going the wrong way on the highway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, not good. I mean, it's kind of.
You guys drive on the wrong side anyway. What's the difference?
Well, when I was in Australia, I got quite a few tickets, bro. Okay,
is that right?
Oh yeah, because I'm like, I can't get the hang of this driving on the other side of the road. It's just like, oh my god.
Hey Tom, you've got to tell us about your Australia trip, man. What did you do when you came to Australia?
Hang on, let's go. Hang on. I don't want him to stop on I don't want to stop the DUI story, but he's going. He's midway driving down the wrong side of the road, and you want to.
Isn't that where it finishes?
No way.
There's more. Come on.
Tom, I'm sorry that the stage is yours.
I don't.
Yeah, for sure. But it was like 3 a.m. in the morning, and I was totally blasted, right? And thank God the state troopers, the state police, they set up a roadblock because somebody passed me, right? And somebody called the police. Thankfully. I could have killed somebody, really. And so, but the state troopers, they stopped me. They pulled me out of the car. They gave me a good beating, threw me into jail. And the next morning I wake up in jail, and, my father had to come and bail me out. Mm-hmm. And he's driving me home. And he was old school Italian, and he didn't speak much. He ruled the roost with his fist in his boot, kind of deal. And he said to me, he's like, when is this all going to stop? And I didn't say anything, Then he said it again, when is this all going to stop? And I said, I don't know. I don't know. And it continued on for another, I want to say 4 or 5 years. That kind of
Yep.
mentality where I just didn't care, But starting with this adventurous lifestyle, it really all began with, I like to say, aviation saved my
Right.
life.
Yep.
Because later, a few years after that, I got a job working at an airport, just cleaning aircraft and doing some fueling and, working around jets and helicopters.
Yep.
And I'm like, wow, that is, and I saw the lifestyle that, the pilots had, like, okay, that's super cool, but how am I going to do that? And so I was working for a corporation, 2 big insurance companies, Aetna and Cigna Insurance, and they had a corporate flight department. They had corporate jets and corporate helicopters. So I one day got up the courage, and it took a lot for me to ask these questions, but I got up the courage to ask the director of flight operations, what do I need to do to fly that Sikorsky helicopter? What do I need to, how do I get there? He's like, how old are you, Tom? And I said, I'm 28. He's like, well, you're probably too old to start flight training. Where did you go to college? And I said, I didn't. He's like, you should probably forget about it, So I was like kind of taken aback that somebody would say that to me, not like, hey, this is what you can do and go down this path. And, he's like, because back then, most pilots came from the military.
Oh,
right?
I see.
Yeah. But a few weeks later, that kind of put a chip on my shoulder. And because it kind of pissed me off a little bit. But a few weeks later, that company hired a young guy about my age. And he was into fitness, and I was, into it, weightlifting and all that. And I'm like, hey, man, how did you get here? He was hired as a co-pilot on the Sikorsky helicopter. And I told him my little story there. He's like, don't listen to that guy. This is what I did. And he gave me, he almost really gave me permission, to pursue a better lifestyle, and sort of this adventurous lifestyle, the beginnings of it, becoming a pilot. And long story short was, it took me 3.5 years, and I had to work 3 jobs to pay for all the lessons. But I went on to become a captain at a major airline, flying, heavy jets and flying corporate helicopters. And then that realization was, wow, if I can do that,
Yep.
I can do anything. And then I started getting into more health and wellness. I had to totally change my whole outlook on life, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and it just started opening up, because here I was flying with Naval Academy graduates.
Yes. Yeah.
Guys from Notre Dame College and guys from the Air Force Academy, and they're like, how did you get here? Here I am, a captain, and they're working for me in the cockpit. And they're like, how did you get here? I'm like School of Hard Knocks, bro. I just,
Is this
I really did.
Is this where you started to find some stability through that, through the training?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It didn't happen overnight.
No,
right?
but what do you think the difference was? Like, what's the difference between the stability you found? Was it the time of your life, the age you were at? For example, why didn't that happen when you were doing the diving training?
When I was at that age and doing the diving, I was still this yes person. I didn't have the courage to say no.
Okay.
I was just a people pleaser, if that makes any sense. Yeah, okay, yes, and this, the women and the drinking and all that, the partying was still a big part of my life. And although I wanted this adventurous life, I didn't know how to grab it. because.
And Tom, did you switch off all of the drinking and the partying when you started training for, flying and stuff like that? Or did you just sort of still dabble a little bit and mess up a little bit or not?
Geez, that sounds like you're asking for direct life advice there, Craig.
I'm just thinking, if I was Tom, what would I do?
So hypothetically, if there was a guy called Craig...
Just asking for a friend.
Hey, you got to be totally transparent, bro. Just, let it all out.
Come on, Craig, just tell him. Come, Tom's been open with us, and you're sitting back there behind this disguise.
You guys are both damn hardcore fitness. I feel like a little bit of an outsider right now in this conversation. You guys are extreme in
Tom
your
squared. It's
goal
hard to
setting.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're feeling that way, we can get on a call later and we'll go through it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I do with all our guests. I try and get a fair bit of self-help out of this, if that's all right with you.
The only reason Craig ever agreed to do this podcast was I said, hey, mate, you might become a better person if you listen to some people.
Yeah. Actually, once I think I got a little snippet of one of your interviews, and I thought, I've been talking to you in my head since then. This is good. Good.
Well, that's what happens, right? I mean, I had to... So to answer your question... It didn't happen overnight. I was still in that modality of partying, but I knew I had to let it go and change what I was doing. And those things, at least for me, and everybody's different, I couldn't just switch it off. So, but, if I wanted to fly and, I had no vision of ever flying jets. That just wasn't really my dream. The helicopter was, okay, that's what I'm going to focus on. And if I want to do that, if I want to have that lifestyle of being a pilot, I need to give up some things, okay? So that means I needed to start studying, getting into books, being healthier. And I thought I was healthy because I went to the gym, but that's kind of BS. There's all different aspects of health and wellness. But it slowly started to manifest itself in my life and, building up my self-esteem and building up my confidence to become this. I was scared to death, to be honest with you, flying helicopters and, going through those first things. But doors started opening up. When you start stepping into your purpose and your passion and living your dreams, people want to come in and help you. They really do.
Yeah.
And I found that out, and people started coming into my life and helping me. And so, and I just grabbed a hold of it, and I was realizing the changes that were coming into me. And so that kind of took me back to when I was that little child of sort of having, dreaming about Jacques Cousteau and his adventurous lifestyle. And then, I ended up, opportunities came to me and I went to the airlines and I'm like, wow, this is great. I'm flying jets, I'm flying helicopters. But I came to the realization that there was so much more. Like I said a little bit earlier, if I can do this, make a complete shift in my life, then I can do anything. So then I started putting together an exit strategy at the airlines because I'm like, I'm going to go on and do bigger and bolder things with my life. And again, somebody came into my life. I was actually flying the helicopter with a friend. I was flying for a corporation doing contract work for them. And he was telling me a story that he was down in Mexico and climbing volcanoes. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what? You're climbing volcanoes? I'm like,
yeah.
What? And I was just like really intrigued. I'm like, how do I get into that? And he's like, oh, this... Go ahead.
That's something, and I was just about to make that point actually, that and please don't take this the wrong way, Tom. what I've seen from your accomplishments to this point in the, I don't really want to call it a story, but let's just say it's a story, is there's kind of been, your accomplishments have been, how would I say it?
Spit it out.
I'm just trying to articulate this. They haven't been kind of so much physical. I know you did speak of your transforming your health and that sort of thing, but a lot of the things have been things that other people would admire, if you know what I mean. Like, and I'm not trying to say they're egotistical. I'm just saying that, and you'd speak to this yourself, flying a helicopter, heck of a lot of work to get there, heck of a lot of work to get your license and then be able to do it. But it's on a completely different plane to climbing a mountain.
Yeah, dude.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I kind of see this point coming up, is this is vastly different from something academic where you can sit down and you can learn this stuff and you can control a machine or even any of the stuff you've done in business. I just kind of, I guess I'm looking forward to understanding how you created this desire to start doing these physically kind of, well, let's we're all in the same boat here. Let's call them ridiculous things.
Ridiculous things. No, but and I also think, mate, that when you're in an aircraft, I'm sure that's dangerous as hell.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's no denying
physically
that.
Demanding. You can probably let us know if it is that way. But yeah, what got you into doing big summits and pushing your body to that level?
Well, it in the beginning it really was ego driven. Okay.
Good. Thanks, mate. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be the one to say it.
Jeez. I thought I was backpedaling to save Tom's ass there, but maybe he was right.
No, you don't have to save me.
No. For sure. But I mean, if you think about becoming a captain for a major airline.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I used to be afraid of those guys, right? Because I was a fueler, and I was cleaning the aircraft. And when I would see these guys, you've seen the captains walking through the terminal, and hey, it's kind of this ego-driven, deal. And I used to have to go up into the cockpit and give them a fuel receipt and have them sign it. And I'd knock on the door, and the captain would be sitting there and the other crew members around, and yeah, come on in. And I was like, holy crap, look at this, but I found out a lot of them are prima donnas and whatnot, and I was still scared to death. But then I became one.
Yeah, very cool.
Not that I became a prima donna, but I had some really great mentors on the way up to that point. And I know the way I was treated in the beginning of my airline career and flying corporate helicopters. And some of the pilots were like, you'll never get my respect until you're sitting in this seat. And, that kind of ego-driven mentality. Yep. And I'm like, if I ever get to that point, I'm not going to be that way. And I had some people come into my life that mentored me, through positive leadership and empathy and living your life with integrity and those types of things. And when I couldn't believe it, but here I was sitting in the captain's seat, years later, and somebody knocking on the door to come into the cockpit. And I was like, hey, come on in, bro, sit down, tell me your story, what's going on, why are you here? And I just embraced these people that were, and these young kids, and they're like, yeah, I'm taking some courses at school and I want to be a pilot someday, or whatever it was, and I'm like, and then I would tell them my story. I'm like, if I can get here, bro, you can get here. You can achieve. And so I would just start with that mentoring process. I didn't know I was really mentoring, but it felt good for me, right? Sharing some stuff. And I know, based on all my experiences with talking with people, that it helped them, because I had a sense that they would walk away and be like, wow, this guy's telling me that I can do this. So that's where that all led to going on to and getting past I had to get past the ego though, but that's where it started, climbing. And I thought, I'm in good shape. I'm gonna go climb this mountain. Yeah. Well, it didn't. I didn't smash it. It kicked my butt. Yeah.
That's. I'm glad you said that, because towards the end there, where you were speaking about the almost being afraid to speak to a captain of an aircraft. What I love about the outdoors and the wilderness is that it's a leveler. It's an equalizer like no other. It doesn't care if you clean toilets at the airport or if you're the captain of the plane at the airport. It treats you the same. It gives you the same respects, and it lets you make any mistakes you want to make. And that's what I love about the outdoors. And that's where I think it doesn't matter who you are. You can really make a name for yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, I was humbled when I first did my first climb. I went to Seattle and climbed Mount Rainier. I didn't go out and do it by myself. I went and took a 3-day course with a company called RMI, Rainier Mountaineering.
Okay.
And I was looking for, and this is where I probably didn't know it at the time, but I was looking for more adventure, and I was like, wow, this is just amazing. But to be honest with you, I was scared to death, but I was like, my dreams are bigger than my fears. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do this anyways. And, all the gear, the altitude, the cold weather. I mean, it was just kicking my butt, but I was just like super excited. And, it did. It kicked my butt. I reached the summit, thankfully. I did.
But congratulations.
I was like, yeah, right. But the takeaway was I wanted more.
Yeah.
Because a couple of things. Number one, I thought I was in good shape, and I'm like, nah, I'm not in good shape. That's where I came to the realization.
It's a different kind of shape,
fit.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
exactly
for
right.
sure.
Yeah.
That nonsense of looking great on the beach kind of BS, you know. I mean, and I was into that, because it was all about the ego, right? And so now I was like, looking fit isn't necessarily being fit. That BS,
exactly.
6-pack abs and big biceps and all that. It's just like, wow, that's a bunch of horse crap.
That's right. The summit's still sitting there saying, I don't care what you look like. When you're ready,
come and get it.
When you're ready, come up.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And when I got to the summit that day, I was in tears. I couldn't believe it. Number one, the scenery and the view from the top of Mount Rainier was just, I was blown away. It was incredible. And I had flown over it in the jet. And
you hadn't worked for it, mate. That's what I always say to people. I say, if there was a chairlift to some of the places Craig and I go, I wouldn't bother going there anymore. Because that's not
the chair.
That's right, man. That's not what I'm there for. You earned it that day, and that's why you were so emotional.
And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was in tears.
You can't buy it.
You have to earn it, and that's 100% true. And what I did was I went back for more. There was something inside of me, and I went back and I did more training with these people, during the winter time and climbing and how to use crampons and ice axe and crevasse rescue and all that. And I was just like, wow, this is so cool. And then I ended up picking up a magazine and reading about this woman, Annabelle Bond, who she completed the 7 summits. And I'm like, what's the 7 summits? And I had no clue.
Yeah.
And I read her story, and I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. That's my sort of big adventure. Pursuing that, and I just kind of stepped into it. I was still, tied with aviation, and that, to me, that's adventurous too. That's all good, but things started to come together with my life. That's when I decided, I think I'm going to be leaving the airline. I didn't know how,
Yeah.
But so I went to Africa, and
That was your first,
climbed.
wasn't it? Kilimanjaro?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kilimanjaro.
Yeah. How did you? So you've been doing all of your training in the US, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then you've gone over and done Kilimanjaro. Was there any level of kind of a culture shock or something, maybe the climate or something that really stuck with you from that trip as being different to where you trained?
Honestly, the big takeaway, I really hadn't learned how to train yet for these big mountains. It's more about endurance and being able to climb through the altitudes for hours and hours. Being able to climb for 10, 12 hours.
Yep.
So the conditioning, I wasn't savvy enough I still had this misconception that big biceps and a strong back and strong legs are going to get me to the top. And, again, I was successful at reaching the summit.
Yep.
But I still hadn't found the way to get into real conditioning. But the big takeaway
was that very obvious at that point? So after you succeeded with Kilimanjaro, were you pretty honest with yourself and you still knew that there was a big jump to be made in your training?
Yes, because Kilimanjaro is 19,310 feet, something like that. And I was like, damn, the altitude, I'm breathing like really heavy. And I'm like, what's going on here, And so that's when I started doing more cardiovascular endurance training, and I started running stairs and carrying a backpack. And, one of my heroes growing up was an NFL player for the Chicago Bears. His name was Walter Payton, and he used to run hills, and it was just brutal. So that's what I started to do. I started pushing myself physically, but really the training's from the neck up, right? You have to train yourself mentally.
I like that.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's all mental. It's all mental.
Yep. And,
but you mentioned something culturally, what I learned when I went to Africa was, and what I've learned since then on all, traveling around the world, it's the people. That's the big takeaway for me is I climbed with the Swahili tribe over there.
Fantastic.
And these folks were, here we are in the United States of America, one of maybe the richest country in the world, and we are so soft and spoiled over here, and we are ungrateful. We have everything we could want, and we are so unhappy.
Yep.
And here I am in Africa, climbing with these people who are earning, maybe $3 a day, and singing and chanting and being happy. I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
there's something,
Yeah, you've got it there, mate. And I think I think they've discovered the secret to happiness. And if you're coming away from those experiences with a little bit of an insight into that, I think it's as valuable as the summit itself.
I think more so because of the connections that you make, because they really influenced me a lot, because I think on a deep level we're all searching for happiness, and happiness is an inside job, right? It's not external things.
Yeah, true. No, it's not material possessions or anything. We've seen that time and time again with celebrities. We don't even need to go down that conversation. It's been proven time and time again that money may enable you to do things, but it's not the secret to happiness.
Mm-hmm. It's not. I mean, it gives you, can create opportunities for you, but I've been around billionaires, Ralph Lauren. Mm-hmm. I worked for the owner of the NFL football team, Cleveland Browns. I've been around to some amazing people, Michael Jordan, and just on, and I've met some people that were super wealthy that were just mean as snakes.
Yeah.
Mean as snakes, totally unhappy, and I'm like, what? How can you not be happy? But like I said, it's really, it has to start with yourself. Self-love, right? You have to love yourself first before you can, change other people's lives and give love, right? So, and people don't know how to do that,
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's evident worldwide.
right. Given today's environment.
Oh,
right?
absolutely, yeah. I mean, in some small pockets, we're seeing acts that are kind of standing out, and it's almost sad that we're sad that we're so surprised by those acts, because they should be commonplace. Take this podcast for instance. We're talking to one of our brothers in the US, right? Fellow hiker. This is cool. Like, who cares? I don't care about where you come from, where you grew up, or whatever. We've got we've got a common bond here. We like the outdoors, so
yeah,
good stuff.
Yeah. Well, the outdoors changed my life in a big way. I'll tell you just a quick story. I was on Denali or Mount McKinley.
In Alaska. Is that in Alaska? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And one of the biggest mountains in the world.
Is that one of your more recent ones?
I did that one in 2013, I believe it was.
Okay.
And we were stuck at high camp because of some weather. And it was probably only 14 or 15,000 feet. And at that latitude, northern latitude where the mountain is located, it's actually a bigger mountain than Everest, if you think about it. And some of the harshest weather.
Yeah, I've certainly read that.
And yeah, for sure. And so the time of the year that we were climbing, the sun is up, it's almost 24/7, right? So I would get up early in the morning, about 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, and just go out and walk around our camp, and I was just like, this is so beautiful, so amazing. This is really the hand of God. And, I don't know if you guys are spiritual or whatever, but I'm like, this is so, I can't believe that I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And, those types of things really started to change my life, as far as I'm grateful, I'm fortunate, but what a beautiful world we have. And here I am experiencing it, It's obviously very, a harsh environment.
Yes.
But that's where you start to respect
100%
what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Whether you're, where you guys live, I love Australia, and I've only been to a few places compared to, your tiny little country. I think that's how you put it, right?
Yeah, it's done. It's a stone's throw from one side to the other.
Yeah.
It's,
but just an amazing place, and I started, the realization of, what an amazing planet we have. I was hooked. I was totally hooked. But I had to build a respect for what I was doing, the environment, the mountain itself, because I witnessed death on the mountain.
Is that right?
When I was in Aconcagua, down in the Andes, in South America, because we got caught in a snowstorm.
Wow.
And there was 4 teams on the mountain that year, and there was our team, a team from Great Britain, a team from Argentina, and another team called IMG, International Mountain Gear or Mountain Group, in a snowstorm as we were pushing towards high camp.
Yep.
High camp was about 19,000 feet, maybe a little bit more.
Can you remember what the summit of that one was?
22,840 feet,
So
something like that.
even high camp was 19,000. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, that, just moving around up there, setting up camp, and, you're really getting breathy at high camp. But right before we were getting to high camp, a snowstorm started to develop. And so we decided to set up camp, jump in our tents, hunker down, and as we were doing that, I noticed the team from Great Britain walking off, climbing up to high camp into the snowstorm. And I snapped some pictures of them with my iPhone, and I'm like, what the heck are those guys doing? It just seemed like, I didn't exactly put it in those nice words.
Yeah.
You're like, what's the deal? And then I forgot about them, because then we're in the middle of this snowstorm, and it lasted 3.5 days, and I'll tell you, it was brutal.
Yeah.
It was, I'm in this little 2-man tent with my tent mate, and blowing snow, freezing cold, and
So did you have to stop before high camp, or did you actually make it to high camp and then hunker down?
No, we had to stop.
You had to stop. You were actually on your way to high camp, but you got shut down.
We got shut down, and that was the, being conservative. The mountain will always win.
Oh,
right?
Every day.
Every day. There's a saying.
You're a guest.
Yeah, I'm gonna maybe allow you to reach the summit or whatever, right? But we have a saying that the summit is optional, getting down is mandatory.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, for sure. But this storm lasted for 3.5 days, and when it cleared, there was still high winds. It was blowing, but we were good. But I've learned a lot. I always carry my journal with me, and I journaled for 3 days while I was in the storm. I did a lot of praying and saying mantras. I'm strong, calm, and confident. I'm strong, calm, and confident. Just trying to, mentally get through that, because, at that point I was still I was on my way to becoming a better climber, right?
Yep.
And dealing with these harsh realities of what the mountain can do, and what weather and exposure and high altitude, and I witnessed guys breaking down on Aconcagua, breaking down and crying like, I can't go on, and also people getting sick, cerebral edema, pulmonary edema, altitude sickness. And so people just not, physically, but also emotionally and mentally not having the capabilities to press on.
Yeah.
And, guys actually crying, like, I can't do it. So it'll definitely change you. But, we ended up pressing on and moving up to high camp. And, we had a team meeting. And right before bed, we were only going to get like 5 or 6 hours of sleep. But we got a briefing. And the lead climber, who actually wrote the foreword in my second book, Jeff, we call him G-Hoff, he got a dispatch about the upcoming weather. It was going to be clear, super cold. It looked like it was going to be nice at the summit. But he said at the end of his briefing, he's like, hey, during that storm that we just came through, looks like 3 members from the team from Great Britain died due to exposure and we may pass the bodies on the route up to the summit. And I was like, whoa, just
Wow.
what's going on here? I mean, I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, now I was already scared.
Yeah.
I was already scared. Yeah. But now I'm like, holy, I'm like, I didn't sign up for this kind of deal. And, but I didn't voice that opinion. I just kind of kept it to myself. And I pressed on. When you do a summit day, it's going to start out at 1 a.m. in the morning, because you want to start out when it's super cold. Because if you start out at like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning when the sun's coming up and going to be high, the sun will start melting stuff. Right,
Yeah.
and you could get into glacier movement, snow, avalanches and things of that nature. So you want to start climbing at night, which is a whole nother deal in of itself.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like
From everything I've watched, it's just ridiculously brutal on you on just every single aspect of the human body, including the confusion and the body clock.
Yeah, absolutely. Confusion's a very good word, And when we got up at 1 a.m. in the morning, and we're putting on our gear, and it's like super cold, and we call them hots. We made hots, or hot coffee, hot cocoa, and you have some protein bars. I have my hot cocoa. I set it down to lace up my boots. I pick it back up, and it's frozen. So yeah, no joke, it's frozen. But we rope in and we start climbing, and my tent mate, and I found out this later, he didn't make it to the summit. He had to turn back because he's like, I can't go on. I just can't go on. And I'm like, you got this, bro. You got this. You're doing good. You're strong. And he's like, I just can't go on. He had to turn around. But I found out later that he knew, even before he started the climb a few weeks earlier, he kind of sized everybody up, and he's like, oh, I'm the weakest here. I'll never reach the summit. I'll try, but I'll never, so that's where that mind thing comes into.
It's incredible, isn't
play. It's everything. That's why I said that the training, you can do all the physical training, but if you don't do the training from the neck up, you're not going to achieve these things. But, we ended up passing the bodies on the way up, and they were just kind of like in this snow drift kind of thing where you could see, parts of the body, a foot sticking out or an elbow. And I just kept looking down at my feet and putting one foot in front of the other. I would hardly ever look up, because if I looked up, I would see, wow, the summit is still, a few hundred yards away. Put my head down and do my rest stepping and pressure breathing. Rest stepping and pressure breathing. And as we got higher up and higher up, for every step that I had to take, I would take probably 6 or 7 pressure breaths. I don't know if you know what pressure breathing is.
No,
you may have heard of it.
Perhaps not exactly. Could you tell us what that is?
So it's actually kind of pursing your lips, almost to like you're going to be whistling, and blowing out, and then air will be forced back in from the altitude pressure and forced back into your lungs. And so for every step that you would take, I would do, like I said, 6 or 7 pressure breaths to kind of oxygenate my blood again.
That's incredible.
So
that in itself is, well, that to me just spells out a mental battle. The the monotony is that's going to break. That'd break me before the elements would.
Yeah, geez, I've never been to any altitudes like that at all. And do you get a panic? Do you ever feel like, geez, I can't breathe properly? I know you get the sickness, but do you get the panic as well?
To be honest with you, I mean, although, I'm afraid of heights, which is kind of weird,
Yeah,
being
well
a
done on
pilot and-
choosing the 7 summits, mate. Good job, mate. There's plenty of other things. You could have been world chess champion or something.
Yep.
right, But it's kind of interesting or funny or ironic. I was on a podcast the other day, and the gentleman said, he's like, "You like adversity, don't you?"
Yeah, sure.
And I'm like, "Oh, nobody's ever told me that." But not that I like adversity, but adversity is there. It's there for a reason, right?
I think you understand the extra levels that you can gain from pushing through it. Like, that's what it sounds like to me.
Absolutely, because I found out that without adversity, I'm not going to grow as a person, physically, mentally, and all those things. And I'm not going to be able to achieve my summits. And, doing these big climbs stripped away the ego BS.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I really,
Absolutely.
because it humbles you to, this level that you can't even imagine. And I'm like, okay, it's not about the ego anymore. It's not about, hey, look at me.
Yeah, no, 100%. You can be on one of those peaks and somebody says in the tent, hey, what do you do? Oh, I fly jets. And the next guy says, oh, I fix taps in houses. And you go, what right have you got to be here? Well, you got every right to be here if you can handle it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but Sorry, Tony. Yeah, but you must have to stay so focused on your goal there of getting to the top. It must be not letting any sideways thoughts come in and just staying very motivated, which I can tell that's a big part of your success, right?
Well, it's the training is a big part, and part of my training is visualization, right? So at home here, I have this huge vision board of things that I want to accomplish. Wow. Owning a jet, owning this research vessel yacht that I'm going to be buying, putting pictures of myself on top of. Now it's on top of Everest. Right?
Yeah, that's the. Well, I wouldn't say it's the final piece of the puzzle, but it's a big piece of the puzzle, right?
Yeah, it's a big part of my life. But when I started this journey of, hey, I'm gonna tackle the 7 summits. To be honest with you, I never thought I'd be in this position right now. I never thought, because you can't take on a big goal, and whatever it is, it doesn't have to be the 7 summits. That's my deal.
Yeah.
You have to chunk it down into baby steps. I can't just oh, hey, I'm going to take on the 7 summits. And okay, I think I'm going to book a trip to Nepal next week and start with the big one.
Yeah. Well, when you're talking about breaking it down to a chunk where you take 1 step and then 6 breaths, I think that really paints a picture of how big of a journey it is, even to complete 1 peak, and then you're talking about 7 plus everything involved in between in getting there. It's incredible.
Well, it is that. Just like you said, it is the journey. That sounds kind of corny in a way, or cliche.
Yeah.
But it is the journey, and I realize that it's not the physical anymore, and not what I can prove by, I did the 7 summits, and and I've been doing radio shows and podcasts and speaking now, and I'm like, how did that happen? I'm very humbled by. This morning, being because last night I'm like, okay, I got to get to bed early. I want to get up. I got, okay, I got to, clean feed. I'm like, I've never heard of clean feed before. I've been doing all these other things, right? And I'm learning as I go along here. And okay, I want to be prepared mentally. I have notes. I go over my notes.
Good.
Just all that stuff. Yeah, for sure. Because. Again, it's not about me. It's really about you and your audience. And how can I help, whoever your listeners are, number one, I'm going to be, tell my story as best that I can. And number two, what's the takeaway for me telling my story? And, who are these people out there in Australia that are listening?
Some of the best people on the planet, I'd say.
Yeah, I would say so too. No, I was just like, when I went to Australia, I was just like, I was looking at Kosciuszko, and because that's on the list there, and I'm like, okay, it's not a big peak, but I kind of underrated the whole experience.
Is that right? I'd love to hear more about that. Yeah. Well, neither of us have been there, to be honest.
Well, you should go. It's
it's going to be on the list after this. After you paint a good picture of it for me.
We'll have to work on this vision board, I think.
Yeah, Craig, get that board up automatically, mate. You need to.
Yeah, tell us how it went, man. Tell us what happened.
Tell us about Kosciuszko.
Well, just getting there to me was an adventure. Right? Flying to Sydney, and I had never been to Australia, so, just booking the flight.
So, did you learn the language before you came over?
No, the way to learn the language is you have to immerse yourself in it, right? You can't just... it's kind of like learning Italian. It's like, what the hell are they talking about? I will tell you, the scariest thing about Australia is driving on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that.
You'd had some practice.
You've been practicing. I don't know what the drama was.
Yeah, but back in the day, I was actually had a few beers under my belt. So
that's right. That makes it easier.
That's a problem. I'm surprised that you didn't get hooked up with a few beers as soon as you walk off the plane.
Foster's.
Yeah. So, in doing the research on just getting to Kosciuszko and doing that and looking at the mountain, and it was just going to be like a one-day deal and all that. So I'm like, well, I need to tie something else into this adventure. And so, that's where I booked an additional trip while I was there to fly over to Port Lincoln and do some great white shark diving, jumping in a cage and doing that.
Oh, yeah, tons of people marry those two things up. That's just...
They do. Okay.
What am I going to do in Australia? Oh, there's a wine and cheese to it. No, I want to do Kosciuszko and then dive with great whites.
It's and I actually went back there with my wife. I flew a jet there, a Gulfstream 4 jet. This was some years later, and just had an amazing time with my wife. I actually flew her over, and we were in Sydney and Melbourne, and we did the 12 Apostles.
That's a fantastic drive.
It is, and that's where I got the tickets. That's where I got the tickets. Drive. So, but going back to the climb, I digress a little bit. I apologize.
Don't worry, we do it all the time.
I've noticed that.
Good.
So, the climb was actually more, because I'm thinking, okay, it's only around 7,000 feet. It's going to be pretty benign. But you had rain the day that I climbed. Rain, fog, snow, and high winds, like all in one day at 7,000 foot altitude. I'm like, what's happening here? And it was more than I expected. It really was. But and I had a guide, somebody take me up, and just kind of explain what's going on here and whatnot. But it was just again, the people are the fascinating thing when you travel to different countries. It really is about the relationships that you build along the way. And I met some amazing people in Australia. And that's why I was excited to go back another time. When I flew the jet, we went from Los Angeles to Hawaii, to Pago Pago, American Samoa. Then from there we went to New Zealand, and then from New Zealand to Sydney. And, that was an amazing journey. But then when I got to Sydney and really had a chance to spend some time in Sydney, and we climbed, and, I'm afraid of heights. We climbed the Harbour Bridge in Sydney.
Oh, yeah. Good job.
That's like a staple when you go down there, right? And
yeah, I think so, for sure.
It's just one of those, maybe it's an American thing. Well, you need to go climb the Harbour Bridge,
Get a few
but
selfies.
went to for sure. Went to the Sydney Opera House, and then, rented a vehicle and drove the, what's the name of that road down there?
Going south from Sydney.
From Sydney to get to Melbourne, and the Great Ocean Road, right?
So Great Ocean Road runs from that goes past the Apostles
that you talked about
Yes.
before, isn't it? Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
which is one of the favourite. I think I've done it three or four times, and it never gets old, that drive.
It was just amazing, And while I was there, there was a. You've heard of Shackleton, right? Ernest Shackleton.
I have. I don't know why. I just.
Okay. There's some books on him on leadership, and he's the one who tried to conquer the South Pole. But his ship, the Endurance, got caught in an ice flow.
Okay, yes, I know this. Yes.
Right, and he's kind of like a hero of mine, and he survived all of that. And there was actually a display of what he did at one of the museums in Sydney, Australia, and I had to go see it. So, I mean, this whole adventurous thing, Australia is one of those places that, I'll bring my wife back there, and we want to go back, and for sure, she actually wanted to start doing some climbing with me, but she couldn't get past the cold weather in New York, so she's like, I'm kind of good with that. I'll support you on everything that you're doing, So. And she does.
Well, we know a couple of guys who know a few secret spots. So you just hit us up, mate.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, no, we're going to go back. We love it. We love it down there.
Speaking of secret spots, Tom, I was tempted to ask you tonight if you still enjoy or if you ever get out just for a little casual kind of hike and. Get out in nature where it's not such an extreme event. What's that for you? Do you participate in a fair bit of just weekend activity as well?
That's a good question, Craig. Craig's been working hard.
Actually, I don't.
Oh wow!
I not really. I mean,
not extreme enough. Not extreme enough.
Oh, no, he's not extreme. Tell us what you did on your 62nd birthday, Tom. That wasn't extreme or anything.
What's this?
What did I do on my 62nd birthday?
There's a little... Yeah, I know a few things, mate. There's a little video of you with a weight vest on running up the stairs 62 times, I believe.
Yeah.
So he's not extreme.
Too busy. You're too busy pushing yourself to like...
to be honest with you, I mean, I did that, just to prove to myself, the books that I've written are really on, my philosophy on how to live a long, healthy, ageless lifestyle.
Cool. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about
that allows me to go on these adventures. I don't believe in aging. I believe the body has the ability to self-heal. I take care of it because this is the only thing that we truly have, right? I call it a God-given gift, and I've been blessed with this amazing body that I feed it correctly. I read good books. I hang around with amazing people, these Tom
I need to do that
and
more
Craig
often. Yeah.
But
No, you're right, mate. You've been given this vessel. Everyone gets given. Well, okay, you don't get given the same, but everyone gets given roughly the same set of parameters, and then you can build this vessel however you want to build it. And you're right in saying you are given this amazing gift. You can chisel this thing to be this mountain climbing beast, or you can choose to play Xbox on your couch. It's really up to you. Like, go live your journey. But I can tell you which one I'd choose every time. And I think if you're not getting close to breaking yourself, and I mean that, excuse me, in a positive way, finding those walls and then kind of kicking them down and seeing where the next wall is and moving again. If you're still doing that now, and I mean I'm kind of moving into that area probably more than I ever have. I don't think you are. I don't think you are doing the right thing by the gift that you've been given.
Yeah, most people, and I started out that way. I didn't take care of the gift that I had been given, but I learned along the way about my gift, and now I call it self-love, and I do whatever I have to do to take care of this gift. I don't believe in the doctors, the pill pushers and those, I've come up with my own philosophy on becoming my own doctor and taking care of my body I'll do all the research on proper nutrition, I'll do the research on the training, I'll do the research on reading good books and mentorship and, the mindset, the mind-body connection. And I've come up with my own philosophy on how to live this healthy lifestyle. And so because I needed that, if I wanted to go out and do these things, if I want to go climb Everest, I can't, but I see it all the time with women and men where, they have these deteriorating bodies and they don't take care of it. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
And the reasons are because they're afraid. They're afraid that they're going to be judged. They're afraid of what their friends are going to think. They're living their lives for other people, right? They're what we talked about earlier. You have to learn to say no. But we like to say yes because we're people pleasers. I like to call those people pleasers sheeple, because you just run along like the sheep. You'll run off the cliff like the lemmings, and you'll do what everybody else wants you to do. And it's hard. It's hard to say no to people. No, I don't want to go out and to dinner. I've got work to do at home. I'm building my life. This is my life. So, going back to...
You're forfeiting short-term pleasures for long-term gains, and that is difficult for 99.9% of the humans on the planet.
Yeah, my purpose in life, like I said, is to inspire others to live their best life. And so in order to do that, like I said, I have to live my best life. And I'm living the life that I dream about. I don't, it's nice. I engage in nature, at times, and I'll walk down to the harbor and just kind of meditate and just, be around nature and things like that. But I typically don't go on a leisurely hike. I'm gearing up for Everest, and, if I do a hike, I'm going to go up to Mount Washington in New Hampshire, and I'll do that. But, I'm constantly pushing myself to the next level. And right now I'm heavily involved in building my business. Because of the climbing, I've invented a piece of fitness equipment, and I'm taking it to the marketplace. And
cool.
That's very challenging in and of itself, in
a 100 different ways, I imagine.
Yeah, for sure. But that's part of my deal, is to show people how to train their bodies properly, functionally, so you can go out and live your life, whatever that means for you. And, I can show people like, okay, I use this piece of equipment. It helps me, yes, to climb my mountains, but we all have mountains to climb, right? And the biggest asset that we've been given It's not your car. It's not your bank account. It's not your home. It's your body. And take care of your body. Take care of your body so you can do great podcasts, right?
Yeah. If you're not if you don't take care of your body, you don't even get to drive your Corvette around. You're too busy at the hospital or the doctors or something.
Exactly. And I see, this year here, I recently lost my mom about a month ago, and a couple months prior to that, we lost my wife's father, passed away, and so there's a realization for me that life. Thank you. But it's I'm all good with that, and it heightens my awareness that we're all very fragile, and we have a short amount of time on this planet to do the things we want to do. Every day is a gift. And you can stop me if I'm getting too going off the rails here a little bit, but it's...
Mate, there's no such thing as too deep on this podcast.
Actually, mate, it's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about, because I've been meaning to... I'll get a hold of your books after this. I wanted to ask you about your relationship with aging a little bit, and are you starting to see some cracks now, and are you starting to think...
No.
But how long's that going to go on for? And is there there's got to be limits to all of that? And I work with people in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and there are some amazing stories. And then some people they really slow down to the point where it's just they don't do any exercise. Can they get back up and start training again in some way in their 70s? Absolutely. Or yeah, right. Tell me a bit more about what you think we should all be looking into as we get a bit older and making it work for us.
Right. So just on a basic level, it starts with mindset. Okay, you have to I have the mindset that my body heals itself. I train accordingly. Number one, starting with great nutrition, right? I mean, what goes in is going to come out, right? What goes in is going to come out. So, you're feeding your mind. My mindset, every morning when I wake up, when I got up this morning, I journaled, I prayed. I pray in my own way. That's my deal. My relationship. I meditated.
Yep.
And then I kind of got
is this the order as well? Because one of my notes is to ask you about your routine.
Your routine a bit.
So yeah, please. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I'm just curious if this is the exact order.
Well, the exact order is wake up, hydrate. First thing, hydrate. A glass of water with lemon in it. First thing. I hit the coffee button. Start brewing the coffee. I do. I love coffee, and I put my honey,
you're
honey
in
there.
Good company.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honey, cinnamon, turmeric, and I get that going. Yeah, for sure. Good spices in there, and then I start praying. And I read good stuff. I start journaling and reviewing my goals in life. Things that I want.
Is that hand in hand with the journaling?
Yes.
What sort of are you keeping your journal? This is funny, mate. This is the second podcast in a row talk about journaling.
Yeah,
so it's kind of hilarious in a way. But I only really started doing it in the last year or two, and then I put it down for quite some time, and only recently picked it back up. Our last guest, fantastic bloke named Chase Tucker, he climbs mountains in Spain, and he was using a very simplified kind of journal tactic. I'm just curious to hear what yours might be. Okay,
I have my journal right here with me, and
don't have to read the personal stuff, mate.
No, so, and I'll read to you, because it's none of my business what you think of me, right? So I don't care.
That's a good way to be.
So, I don't care what Craig thinks of me either.
But if you're thinking, oh, what are they going to think of me? Then you're going to shrink back and be small. And I've learned that it doesn't matter. because people are going to think what they're going to think, and you can't stop them from thinking, thoughts about you. They're just going to do it.
They're not on the same journey anyway. Like, who am I to sit here and say, yeah, sure, he climbed 6 mountains, but he's not very good at journaling.
So this is what I wrote. I said, I am the founder, CEO of Total Motion 360. That's my fitness company, a global $1 billion health and wellness company. Then after that, I have 5:30, wake up, be grateful, things that I'm grateful for. So I did that.
Yep.
I hydrated, coffee, pray, meditate. I did that. And then I wanted to, check the equipment. I have, the microphone and having my laptop ready. So then I got into the prep. Close all browsers except Chrome. So I wrote down these things.
Tick.
Because I didn't want to a 7 a.m. podcast, Hike or Die, crush it, dress for success. I got dressed for, I wasn't going to be in my sweats or whatever.
Yep.
I wanted to look my best. I had a feeling it wasn't going to be like Zoom where you could see me or whatever, but I'm like, I'm going to be my best for you guys, and so then I went on with things that I have to do for the rest of my day, but starting my day out correctly, that's setting the tone for my entire day. I could get up and it's like, oh damn, I got to get up at 5:30 a.m. for these guys. What's up with that?
I'd be thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
No, I was telling my wife last night, I'm like, you need to help me. She knows this journey that I'm on and changing people's lives and trying to inspire others. But I struggle every day with being my best. I really do. Because I have these huge, if you saw my vision board and these huge goals that I'm on my way to achieving. But because doubt can creep in to our minds and, you can't do this, whatever the case might be. But and that's where I go back to the journaling, because I take the thoughts that are in my head and I write them down, and it clears away what's in my head. And I learned this from, I think it was Tony Robbins, who said, if your life is worth living, it's worth writing about, right?
Yeah.
So,
I've
we're actually writing another book. It's my story, and and the title of it is From Zero to Hero, Made in America. Coming from the zero that I was to becoming my own hero, right? But in some ways, heroes to other people that may read about my story and be, excited about it and possibly changing their lives. So, but journaling to me it's a key aspect of, going on to living an inspired life, because you need to write down There's your
something
thoughts.
Therapeutic about the moving pen. That's what I've noticed more than anything. At first, the stuff I was writing was, I don't know, rubbish. But it didn't matter, because that pen moving in the mornings was therapeutic. It's hard to explain. It's almost like a form of meditation in itself. I found.
It is. Don't be afraid to write down the thoughts that you're thinking. I write down my fears. I write down my successes. I write down my dreams. Everything.
Cool.
Fears about my relationships. The love of my life, Rhonda, and my son Brandon. I journal about them. Just everything. It's just, I think to me, and that's my deal.
Yeah, that's cool. What can you give us a little bit of an insight into your, even just briefly, what style of, what form does your meditation take?
So that meditation has been one of those difficult things where, you read a lot about it. And when I jump into something, I start
Absolutely.
reading about all these different people meditating. And there's all kinds of forms of meditation. And it's taken me some years, a minimum of 10 years anyways, to figure out what works best for me, right? Because we're all different.
Yeah.
We're all different. And so I do this box breathing where I'll breathe in, and I only do 5 to 10 minutes depending on how I'm feeling.
Okay.
And so where I breathe in through the nose and I'll say a mantra, I'm strong, calm, and confident. Then I'll breathe out through the nose and I'll say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Then I'll breathe in through the nose and I might say, day by day and in every way, I am getting better and better, better and better, stronger and stronger, healthier and healthier, wealthier and wealthier, younger and younger. And then I'll breathe out. So
you're kind of mixing kind
Yes.
of mixing your meditation and your mantras into one exercise there.
I am. And that works for me because I'm really kind of de-stressing.
Yep.
And I'm bringing in things to my life that mean a lot to me. And I struggled with it for years because it, just like you struggle with life, it took me a long time to get out of that path that I was on in my earlier years, right? The drinking, the drugging, the fighting, all that. It took me years to get out of that.
Yeah.
So now it took me 12 years to become a captain at the airline. It's taking me, I'm on this long journey now of the 7 summits, skiing the North Pole, but it's not about, the time frame doesn't matter. And that's where we go into this ageless lifestyle that I've developed. I don't believe that I age. People say to me, oh, wow, Tom, wow, you're looking great. I'm like, yeah, I know. Just kind of half-heartedly joking there. But I feel better now. And my body looks like when I was competing in my early bodybuilding,
Yep.
in my early 20s, and I look at my body now, it's the same. Or even better, actually, in better shape. Physically, but now I'm more in shape emotionally, mentally, spiritually, which I wasn't back then. And so when I'll tell you this and be truthful, that, I want to live to 123 years plus. And I'll go.
I love how specific that is.
Yes. Well, 123 is this progressive number, and I'll be progressing.
Okay.
Oh. It is. And I'll be ready to go when I'm done doing what I need to do on this earth. Okay. So I know my purpose. I know my mission.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the mission that I'm on, And so I believe in, that's where it comes back to taking care of the body. And, I only hang out with certain people that are going to be nurturing me, that are going to help me to grow, and I do the same. I do the same for them, right? And always, like meeting you guys. There's, I'm excited. I'm like, holy crap, hike or die. What does that mean? Hike or die?
No idea.
Because my wife asked me that. She's like, hike or die? Who are these guys? I'm like, well, we're going to find out tomorrow.
You know what it means, Tom? To me, it means, in a funny way, it means a lot of what you've been saying, and that is get outdoors or sit on the couch and melt. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of where that came from, and it did start as a joke because I was a pretty big skateboarder when I was younger, and there was that whole skate or die kind of thing. And as a joke, Craig and I had this chat group with another mate. We were planning a hike, and I had to quickly come up with a name for the group, and I just typed it in, and it stuck like shit to a blanket, and so
Yeah.
it's still there. But what it has always meant to me is it's not literal. And people, it's funny because a few people get it wrong, and they say, "Oh, I love your hike or die," and I say.
No, they say
hike and die.
Hike
and I
and
say,
die.
no,
Yeah, exactly.
you see, it's optional. Okay, like it's not hike
optional.
and die, and I have to correct him on that. But for me, it's not. No, it's not. It's not literally about.
No, but I think it does lend really well, Tom, to what you've been saying, that you have to keep pushing. You have to keep pushing yourself, right? Is this where your forever young sort of theme comes from, that if you keep learning and you keep, doing new challenges, and you got to not stop, right? Is that what you're getting at?
Exactly. And it's also about pushing limits, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a century ago, we were living to, 40 years old, roughly, somewhere in that range.
Thereabouts, yeah.
Sure.
And there's new technologies coming out, and, there's so much that we don't know about the human body. And I have an uncle who lives in Boston, Massachusetts. My father's oldest brother. My father passed away while I was on McKinley, actually. And my uncle is 97 years old, and he exercises every day, and he looks phenomenal. I mean, really amazing. And I'm like,
Awesome.
Hey, what's your secret? He's like, it's in the wine. So I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I enjoy wine, and we have wine with dinner, and those kind of things. But it's more than that. You have to wake up with a purpose every day. If you don't have a purpose for your life, then you will die. A lot of people that retire at 60, 65 years old, whatever that ridiculous number is.
Yeah.
Then people, they just kind of sit at home, and, they don't have any reason for getting out of bed. And so if you don't have any reason for getting out of bed, then you will die. You will fade away. And I have more than enough reasons to get out of bed. I imagine this whole big life that, I'm like right in the middle of it. But if you saw my vision board, you'd be like, damn, okay. Yeah, you would. I mean, it scares the heck out of me.
Hey, Tom, just quickly.
I was going to say you can cross off the podcast with
Hike or
Die.
Just quickly, even if
Thankfully.
it's might be a yes or no.
It's not over yet, Tom.
Might be a yes or no, but I know that you're really a big advocate of what would you say, nutrition and healthy, what do they call it, like clean sort of approach to wellness. But do you I mean, are you going to take on some of these medical kind of
Yes.
like
Yes.
the breakthroughs that are coming that are just on the horizon? Are you going to get on board and get injected with stuff that might make you live a bit longer? What's your thoughts on all that?
No. I see a lot of these. Take a Larry Ellison. I don't know if you know that name. Oracle, the billionaire who founded Oracle.
Right.
It's a tech company. And he's, this guy is probably around 70 or so, and he's looking into, stem cell therapy and telomeres and, what's the latest tech and what can I be injected with and really...
That's not on your radar? Not really?
It's not on my radar. I'm not looking for that. I found it already.
Fair enough.
I found it already. I
That's good.
have. And that's the mindset. That's the mindset that...
Good.
I do. I have this belief that my body heals itself and it's regenerating itself. But having said that, I have to give it the right tools, and the right tools come from nature. Jonas Salk said, if you remove man from the earth, right? The earth would thrive and heal itself, right?
Throw a party.
Yeah, it would, for sure.
Prob-
But if you take away all the insects from the world would die. Like, just remove the bees, right? And the world will not pollinate itself. I mean, look what we're doing to the Great Barrier Reef down there. You know, just from things that are happening. And so, you know, one of my purposes and mission, once I build this global business of health and wellness with my fitness product, I'm going to use the monies to start healing the oceans. I'm going to become actually that Jacques Cousteau character that I dreamed about when I was a little boy. So it'll come full circle to where, you know, I'm helping people understand what real health and fitness and wellness is, and in doing so, you know, help millions of people, and then in turn, because they'll be helping me, I'm going to start helping the planet in a better way, and that's healing the oceans. So that's kind of, it'll kind of go full circle to when I was a little boy dreaming about that.
Yeah.
But now it's coming around. It's just like when I used to be homeless, right? But at some point when I was at the airline, I put myself through culinary school in New York City, and I became this chef, although I was still flying and whatnot. And it ended up coming full circle to me, because at one point I was cooking at a homeless shelter. And I couldn't believe it, because here I was starting a prayer with serving people a meal that I prepared for them. And I was cooking for lots of people, right?
Yeah.
All the food was donated to me. And the first time I did that, I came home and I cried, because excuse me for a second.
Take your time, mate.
You know, I was given this gift, and now I'm giving it back. If that makes sense.
It 100% makes sense. You basically just a minute ago spelled out your ethos, which is you're not looking to. I think you've moved past this egotistical plane, and you basically move into a space where you're only improving yourself so that you can come back and give us all some good stuff, you know, whether that be life advice or you know, help and heal the planet. So I reckon that's a pretty good I think everyone should take a leaf out of your book there for sure.
Yeah, thank you for that. But I think life has a way, when you really step into your purpose and really feel that, you know, each day is a gift and you're blessed to be here, right? I mean, where you guys are in Australia, I think that's an amazing country, amazing people, everything environmentally down there. It doesn't take much to tip the balance, right? It doesn't. Yep. And you see that you've come through those fierce fires. I see what's happening to. I mean, all of that, right? All of that, and so, you know, I know what my purpose is, and I'm going to give back. You know, and whether that's being on a podcast and sharing my truths. Yep. And, you know, my fears and my struggles and all those, and, you know, breaking down and getting all teary-eyed over my life and whatnot. That's I don't mind that. That's that's cool.
People want the honesty. Okay. You know, we spoke about that right at the start. As soon as you reveal your own vulnerabilities, you've all of a sudden you've got people's attention, because nobody needs another gung ho hero to come on a podcast and tell everyone how fantastic they are, and look at all the amazing stuff I've done. I mean, I understand that you're doing these things to demonstrate to other people that they can achieve these things, not because you're on an egotistical journey anymore.
Yeah, but, you know, it did have to start with the ego, and I had to learn. You know, somebody told me, this was years ago when I was doing the bodybuilding thing and putting this shell of muscle on, that it's sort of a shell kind of hiding behind it.
Yep.
And this gentleman, he was a good friend of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I'm sure you know that name.
Yeah, we know that.
Right. And this was Frank Zane, who lived with Arnold, and I had the
I'm
opportunity.
familiar with Frank. Yeah.
Yeah, and I trained with him a couple of times, and he said, he's like, you're still trying to please your father. And that's where this all started, because I was, neglected in my earlier years, through the beatings and my parents not showing up to my games and all that, and the neglect. And so I was, in the beginning, there was this ego-driven thing that, whether it was through fighting or, being this brute and all that, of trying to somehow please my father. Like, look at me, I can do this. But I learned along the way, it's not about look at me, it's about, I want to help you, I want to serve others. And it took me a long time, and I'm still on that journey. I'm still on that journey.
Hey, Tom, if I can just ask, what you've talked about that, trying to please your father. What was how was it to have the success that you had on Mount McKinley? And I'm assuming that you wouldn't have discovered his passing until you returned back into some kind of phone reception or something. How was it to go and have that success and then come back and I guess not be able to share it with him or voice it with him?
Well, you're exactly right. We were nearing this, I believe we summited McKinley on July 5th, and he passed away on July 7th. I had been in contact with my wife, Rhonda, via satellite phone and giving her updates, and she was kind of posting blogs. Hey, this is where Tom's at. This is what's going on. They're stuck here, blah, blah, blah. He's struggling, And so, but the satellite phone froze, and so it failed, and I was unable, probably thankfully, not to get any dispatches through to her anymore, because if I knew my father that would have changed the whole dynamic, right? Knowing something
absolutely.
like that, even though the relationship that I had with him, the last day that I saw him, he was in a soldier's home, like a nursing home, but for Korean War veterans, and he was a veteran. And the last day that I saw him, I was actually on a hike. I was taking a group of people up to Mount Washington in New Hampshire, and that was part of my mentorship at the time, was taking people and pushing them to get past their limits. And one of the ways to do that is through the physical, right? And people are climbing, and those types of things are fearful for some people. But I got a call from my mother, and I had to leave and come down and go visit my father. And that was on a Sunday. The next day, I was actually flying out to Alaska. And so I saw my father before I left for McKinley, and I said goodbye to him. I kissed him on the top of his head, and I said, I love you. And he said to me, okay. And that's the last thing he said to me. Mm-hmm. And so that's my last memory of him. But I found out about his passing when I finally got back down, when we were flown off the glacier from Mount McKinley, and we landed back at the Talkeetna, where there's this little airstrip, and I was able to phone back to New York, and my wife told me that my father had passed. And I, immediately flew back to New York. But it was, to be honest with you, it was, I was sad, but it was mixed emotions based on the relationship, still at that point where trying to please my father, and I don't know if I ever really did, but knowing what I know now, it wasn't about, it was about pleasing him, but then really it was about me and what I was trying to achieve with my life and take care of my son and mentoring other people. Yep. So, but I don't think there was, to answer your question, there wasn't really a final closing. And that's why you have to, every day speak your truth. And that's, if you have children, tell them you love them and hug them, because there may not be a tomorrow. You don't want that ending, right? You don't want that, whether it's your children passing or you or your spouse or your friends, say, hey, I love you, bro, whatever, and that's how I end it with my wife and with my son and people that I love. I'll tell them, hey, love you. I love you, and if they don't accept that, it is important, I don't want to be laying on my deathbed, and number one, I won't be, because I'm going to go in some fabulous way, right? But I don't want the regrets. Honestly, I'm not going to be in some nursing home. That's not going to be me, I might be in New Zealand or what's that tiny island just to the west of New Zealand? What's that, Australia?
There's this little place there. Yeah, a couple hundred people.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks for that. I hope that wasn't too personal, mate. But it's just curious.
No. That's relationships are important. So
no, that's good advice. I think that transcends any kind of culture, I think.
Yeah.
I've got a little question. This is just backtracking a little bit. You went into fantastic detail on your routine. I was just wondering how that translates to when you're on the mountain. Do you, obviously you can't hit the button on the coffee machine, but have you kind of developed a smaller, more succinct version of your routine to mentally gear yourself up for when you're on peaks or on your way up peaks?
Yeah. On these big climbs, 3, 4, 5 weeks on the mountain, the nutrition is what it is, right? The first 3 to 5 days, you can only carry in so much fresh food, and that's only going to last so long, correct?
Exactly.
But then the other aspect is I have to make sure that I'm properly hydrated, so we're always melting snow and staying hydrated. But I incorporate stretching. I'm not working out per se in the traditional sense, because, pulling a 100-pound sled or an 80-pound pack on your back and going up the mountain, that's plenty.
Absolutely.
Physicality.
You don't need to be burning calories, doing push-ups or something.
No. But, the nutrition is important. But what I see happening is the higher we go, the less that I'm eating. And then the nutrition is not as, because we're eating, freeze-dried foods and then just adding water and, but I'm still, so at that point, it's just taking in calories. But I notice how my physical starts to degrade, number one, because of the improper nutrition that I'm taking in. And we're trying to remedy that, by taking in, more nuts and seeds and things of that nature, good fats, right?
Yep.
Good calories, as much as we can, every 45 minutes, taking a break to take in some calories and hydrate. But I incorporate stretching when we set up camp, and I'll get in my tent and I'll stretch for 30, 45 minutes or so, and do meditation, get good rest, So there's certain things that I do that help me along the way. But I've noticed I typically, on a big climb, I'll lose around 12 to 15 pounds, and that's a lot for me. because I'm fairly lean, and so you can kind of see it in my face when, somebody like me loses 12 to 15 pounds.
Absolutely.
So we're not meant to live at altitude. There's nobody living above 18,000 feet on this planet that I know of.
Yeah, they don't call it the death zone for nothing, do they?
For nothing, right?
Which is a perfect segue into discussing, I guess, what sort of. And I know you mentioned earlier you don't really like putting time frames on things, but what sort of what's your gut feel on when you might start formulating a plan for Everest?
Well, we're already doing that now. We were planning on going this year in 2020.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But obviously with the global pandemic, that shifted everything. Everything. So I have a gut feeling that it probably will not be 2021. It'll be 2022. This global pandemic has created an opportunity for me with my business and launching my product. The at-home fitness.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's booming.
Going crazy.
Booming.
That's perfect, yeah.
And so, I've always looked at my product as, well, I can sell to big box gyms like you may be familiar with F45. They're out of Australia.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
One of the largest fitness chains on the planet, and Orange Theory and Gold's Gym and Planet Fitness, and I always knew my product could go in those types of gyms, and then franchise that model, and then selling to the home gym user, and live streaming classes. And since the pandemic started, I was like just kind of blown away by all the gyms, most of them shutting down. And I'm like, wow, it is sad, but I try to look at everything as an opportunity, and I see an opportunity for me with the at-home market.
Most definitely. I think a lot of people rely on that routine of dragging themselves to the gym to find motivation in that. And I train from home. I have done forever, and I have all my crazy stuff I do in my backyard. But I take pride in finding motivation, in myself each day. But I know that's not for everybody, right? That takes a bit of discipline. So I understand why people who have a routine of hitting the gym 2, 3, 4, 5 mornings a week, I understand how difficult that could be for somebody. But it's there is a gap there to fill, and I think it's not just the fitness part, but it's finding the discipline as well.
Well, in a sense, motivation is BS. Discipline is the thing that gets you through, because we may not all be motivated, right?
Yeah.
Like, wow, am I motivated at 5:30 in the morning to get on this podcast with these two blokes from
that little island? Yeah.
The little island. I was motivated last night to make sure everything was in place. But then when I woke up at 5:30, it's like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah,
all right.
Said a few things about us.
Yeah,
but that's where
threw some darts at the what was it? The board that we're pinned to.
Yeah, right. The vision board.
The vision board. That's it.
But that's where the discipline comes in to get up, right? To get up and start the routine, because I've disciplined myself. I've built in these habits of the journaling, the coffee, for sure, the hydration, to take care of my body, all those little things to get me ready to take on the day. You need those disciplines. Motivation comes and goes.
Yeah, it comes in waves, doesn't it?
It really does. You may be motivated. Okay, yeah, I'm going to have a great workout, or whatever it is. But then there's lots of times where I'm not motivated to go through this 45-minute exercise routine that I've written down the day before, but the discipline will get me started to doing it. And then as I'm doing it, it starts building my self-esteem, my self-confidence. I feel the endorphins flowing, that kind of deal, and I get into this flow state of, just trying to crush it, and that's how it works with the mountain too, or going out and going on a big hike or whatever it is, it's the disciplines that will get you through.
With your, speaking on that note, with the peaks that you've climbed to date, which one would you say, perhaps you've already told us, but which one would you say you had to dig the deepest into, and you're glad that you had that mental fortitude? Was it the Argentina trip where you saw the...
I think so. I think it was for a couple of reasons. A realization of what can happen and that I could die potentially. And I remember my son, right before I left for Argentina, and I was sitting in my Jeep and I was at home and I was going to take my son somewhere, and he's like, and we were talking about the trip because I was going to be flying out the next day, and he's like, why do you have to go, Dad? I want you to come back. Why do you have to go? And it's like, I have to go. This is what I do, but I promised him that I will be coming back. And that's where that mindset of the mountain will always be here, right? It'll always be here. I may not be, but, the summit is optional. Getting down is mandatory. So, if the weather is looking that bad, I'm not going to push because I cannot overcome the mountain. The mountain will allow me.
It will allow you passage, but not.
Exactly.
You're not going to go up there and push your weight around and change anything.
No way. Just like now, when we were getting ready to go to Everest, I started prepping last year. And when I came back from Antarctica, I was like, no frickin' way. I'm done. Six out of 7. That's pretty good. I'm kind of good with that. I mean, we got caught in a storm down there. 90-mile-an-hour winds destroyed our camp.
Hang on a second.
Destroyed our tent. It was.
I got to
brutal.
do that conversion real quick. I'm not very good at maths. 145 kilometers an hour for our metric listeners.
Yeah, destroyed our tent.
Whoa.
And this will be interesting because I was actually on a call to Zurich, Switzerland as the storm started coming in, because I had been invited to speak over there and give a talk about overcoming fear. And straight up.
Wow. It's like Antarctica caught wind of that and thought, oh yeah, you want to talk about fear, mate?
Look at this.
All right, I've got something for you.
And it all came about because I sent my book to this gentleman. His name is Robin Sharma, and he's big into leadership, and he's kind of this leadership guru, and he travels around the world speaking. And I sent him my book, because I wanted to, I wanted to do some speaking with this guy, And so he got a hold of me, and he's like, hey, I'd like to invite you to my summit meeting, as it's called, and where people pay big bucks to go to his leadership conferences. And he was doing a 3-day conference in Zurich, Switzerland. And he invited me to come and speak and talk about fear. And I'm like, hey, that's awesome. I can't because I'm going to be in Antarctica climbing Vincent Massif. And he's like, what? Oh, hang on. What are you going to be doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be in Antarctica. It's a dream of mine. I've been traveling, trying to conquer the 7 summits. And he was like, oh, I wish you could come to our conference. And I'm like, hey, this is what I can do. I bring a satellite phone with me, and I can call in to your summit meeting. And he was like, wow, this is great. He's like, what are the chances you can pull that off? And I'm like, 100%, no problem. Having no idea that I could pull it off. But obviously, I'm going to be in the mindset of, I'm going to do it, right? I'm going to do this.
Find a way.
Find a way. And we did all, I tested my satellite phone. We were testing the satellites. They call them LEO satellites, low Earth orbit satellites that are circling the globe, and that's how you pick up the signal. And
Okay.
so, what I had to do was I had to, from the South Pole, call New York to my wife, and then she made a connection to Zurich, and we did the calls. We did the testing when I landed in Antarctica, Wow. And so that morning it was 9 a.m. Antarctica, and it was like 8,500 miles away to Zurich, and I think their time it was 1 in the afternoon. That's my recollection. And it was interesting because the storm had started early that morning in Antarctica. And I'm in my tent with 2 other mates, and I have all my gear on except my boots, and I'm in my sleeping bag, and I have my little satellite phone propped up, and I have my earpiece, and you can hear the wind. My wife will tell you that when I called her, she could hear the wind and the tent ruffling. And I'm like, yeah, the winds are picking up. They're about 30 miles an hour right now. I said, I'm in the snowstorm and it's going to get crazy here, But she made the connection. She made the connection to Zurich. And I got through to the stage. And they had pictures of me up on stage, and it was going to be Tom Fabbri talking from, from the South Pole, and he's going to be summiting the highest peak down there. He's on the side of the mountain, and the timing was perfect. It was perfect, almost, and it couldn't have been better. I dreamed about being up on stage with this guy, but how cool was it for me to be at the South Pole in a snowstorm talking about fear?
That's next level.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was my dream enhanced, but it was kind of interesting because when I broke through the phone call and I get through to Zurich, I get like the stage manager, and Robin Sharma's up on stage talking, ready to introduce me, and the stage manager, I think his name was John. He's like, hey, Tom, we got you. We're going to put you on hold. And I'm like, no, you can't put me on hold. And he puts me on hold. And I'm thinking, they put me on hold. I'm in a storm. and I'm watching the timer on my satellite phone ticking away because it's very expensive.
I was just going to say, it's $1,000 call.
It's not cheap. And I'm like, no, And if I lose the signal, I may not get it back, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And they kept me on hold for 9 minutes. And I'm sitting there. Yeah. But finally, they came back to me, and Robin is introducing me to the audience. And it was like 140 people. It was a small audience, but leadership, business leaders, CEOs, that type of crowd.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, we got Tom Fabbri. He's in Antarctica, and welcome, Tom. And so I got into it. I said, hey, Robin, I'm grateful to be here, but I have to tell you, I'm in the middle of a building storm, and I don't know if you can hear me. And he was just kind of blown away. And we started talking I was grateful. We talked about gratitude and fear, and I was on the line for 18 minutes. So, and then the call dropped, but it was sort of my dream enhanced because it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. I mean, I can say that now because we survived through the storm.
Exactly.
It ended up where our tent was crushed, not from snow, but from heavy winds. And we had snow walls built up around us. and
Wow.
they blew over these 50-pound ice blocks that we had built around our tent, and it just it broke the tent poles, and the three of us are in there laying in the tent, hanging on to the covering that we had. And it lasted for about 12 to 14 hours. It was just incredible. But it couldn't have been better for me. Obviously, I would have liked to have been on stage and talking about fear and overcoming your fear. But here I was living it. I was right in the middle of it. Right in the middle of it. So it was fabulous. It was just incredible. But I can say that now because I'm warm and dry.
Yeah. It's just a day in the life of Tom Fabbri. By the sound of it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh, that's incredible. Hey, mate, the Adventure Grand Slam, that's the 7, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the 7 summits plus the 2 poles, is that correct?
That's correct. That's, go ahead.
Have you done either of the poles yet?
No, I've been to Antarctica, obviously, because we're just talking about it.
I wasn't sure if it was on that same trip that you knocked it over, but...
No, I should have. I should have. But, the blessing is that I get to go back to Antarctica and ski. So that's the Adventure Grand Slam, climbing the 7 summits. Mm-hmm. Or you can call it the Explorers Grand Slam. But I'll go to the North Pole and ski to the North Pole, and then head back to. I'm not sure what the time frame on that is. Which one? Just have to look at it again.
Yeah, of course.
Based on timing and everything. But skiing to the North Pole and skiing to the South Pole, which will be, fabulous. A fantastic trip.
I read a book about a guy who did complete the Adventure Grand Slam, and it was quite incredible when he was talking about getting to the poles, because when he was doing Antarctica, he said that every day when the team would wake up, the pole has actually moved, so it's not the same piece of ice. Like,
is that right?
Yeah, so the ground is shifting inches kind of each, like it's just floating around, moving. And so each day
that would be the Arctic.
The Arctic. Okay, so I've got the wrong pole.
Right.
Yeah, no. Well, that's just because Antarctica is one of the 7 continents, right?
Right.
So, but the Arctic, it's a moving target up there.
Yeah, you said every day they kind of had to recalibrate where it was and what the target was, which is incredible.
Yeah. So that's that's another one of those deals where that scares the heck out of me. But what an opportunity! And even going to Nepal and attempting to climb Everest, I've created the opportunity, or I've earned the right to go there. And you've seen what's been happening on Everest now with these Congo lines going on, and people being dragged up there. They hire some guide to drag them up and drag them down. These people have no business being on the mountain. And as you guys put it well, I mean, it'll literally kill you, right?
Yeah, it's not a, how would I put it? It's not something you do to get a selfie. Like you need to be up there for the right reasons.
For the right reasons, and that's when you call it hike and die, right?
That's it.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's
No, you've earned your right to do that, mate. I think that was a big part of the media at the time, was that you shouldn't have Everest as one of your first major climbs, and a lot of people were trying to do that.
I mean, I feel like the 23-year-old, 28-year-old Tom Fabbri may have tried to put Everest as the first one.
Yep.
But I think you've grown. It sounds like you've grown or you've kept that ego in check and realised that ego's not going to get you anywhere up there, is it?
It's not. It's not. And if I was to look back on my life, from this vantage point, and, I would try to tell myself that, you can change your life. When I was in the middle of all that hardship and that maelstrom, I actually believed that I wasn't going to make it past 21 back then. I actually believed that. But some people came into my life and helped me change my life and kind of gave me permission to start the journey just by saying, yes, you can, And you guys have that ability too, by what you're doing here with reaching out to, your audience and saying, yes, you can achieve things. And one of the ways to do it, whatever you want to achieve, is getting out there and being adventurous. And that's through, one of the modalities is hiking, right? Because that's not an easy thing to do, because people can go out there and hike, especially in Australia, where that place will bite you big time.
Yeah, we got a few bites.
and no doubt, for sure.
I don't think there's any better teacher than the wilderness, though.
Yeah. Myself included. Nature is beautiful, and we need to connect more with nature and feel more grounded, and it's going to help us. It helps us grow, for sure.
Mate, I couldn't think of a better way to sign off this fantastic conversation than what you just said.
Well, I'm honestly, God, we've been chatting it up here for quite a while.
Yeah, we've been rattling on for a while. It's fairly typical.
Well, that's typical of me, because I just kind of go down this rabbit hole, and I have, there's so many stories and adventures. We didn't even talk about when I went to Russia. And
that's why we got to get you back on, mate. It's all good.
Yeah, and well, hopefully, I'll come back if I get invited back. When Everest, whatever happens on Everest happens.
Yeah. Yep.
But we get to talk about that and inspire your audience to go out and seek their own adventures, right?
Yeah. And I kind of keep saying this to people. It doesn't matter if your goal is Everest or if it's a half-day hike on a well-graded trail. Like it doesn't matter. You don't be kind of sitting there thinking, I'll never be at that level. Well, you don't have to be. Like, people can get enriched by much smaller versions of that.
Yeah, you don't have to. You have to do your own thing. I'm just doing my thing to show people the capabilities that we have. If it's reading a good book, read a good book. But you know what? Go do it out in nature. I say this honestly, I bring somebody's book with me, and I typically, if I make it to the summit, I'll take a shot of me and that person's book on the summit. And that's what I did when I was down in Antarctica. Robin Sharma, he's got a new leadership book out, and I took his book to the summit, and giving him what?
I got to start writing a book before you get to Everest.
There you go.
Idiot's Guide to Podcasting.
Yeah, that's it. That's what we need up there.
No. Well, send it. I had some guy when I was going to Russia and climbing Mt Everest, the highest peak there. That's between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. This guy, he was big into fitness in the U.S. He was a big fitness kind of guru leader, in the country here, him and his brother. And he found out I was going to climb this peak, and he lives in Colorado, and he was into kind of mountaineering a little bit. He overnighted his book to me because he knew I was flying out the next day to Paris and then to Moscow, then on to Mineraline Vodi, where we were going to start the climb. And I actually carried his book all the way to the summit. And for me, because it's not about me, right? It's about giving you a shout out and say, hey, read this guy's book, because that inspired me to get in better conditioning, or whatever the case may be, becoming a better leader, becoming a better father. If that book resonates with me, then I'll give you a shout out and, help promote you. Right.
Yeah, that's very kind, mate. As always, you're always giving back by the sounds of it, which I like.
Mate, it's great to be chatting with you, sitting here with a couple of Toms that are very, very disciplined. I feel like a bit of an outsider. The way that you guys approach, your lifestyle, and you take it to the extreme in terms of getting your, reaching some goals that are pretty high up there. I just want to say you got a whole world of experience, mate. You have, found some real enlightenment on your journeys, I can tell, and it was a chat I was really looking forward to. So thanks for coming in and chatting with us.
We really appreciate it, mate. Craig has been excited the whole week.
I have actually. And I love it, mate, that you're genuinely trying to lift people up, and I can tell that in everything that you do. So yeah, good on you for that.
Thank you. It's It's been a pleasure. It's been a absolute pleasure and speaking with you, and you guys having great conversation, and you listening to me, right? So, and giving me the opportunity to kind of ramble on here.
That's cool. It's all good. That's what we're here for, mate. We're here to learn, and that's I think a key to what our listeners are looking for. So
100%.
I really appreciate your time, Tom, mate. We love you. Take care of yourself, brother.
Yeah, thank you. Love you too. Much love back at you guys. Stay in touch.
Most definitely will. You got it, mate.
Yeah. And can I look for your this podcast here on your episodes?
Yeah, 100%, mate. Well, you'll be getting notified from me in the next week or so. Yeah, I'll shoot you a link, mate. It's all good.
It's coming.
And
it's coming.
I'll also share all of every possible way for our listeners to get in touch with you. I'll include all of those links and the different things that we've been discussing. I'll have all of that in the show notes on the website, mate. So anyone who wants to learn anything about Tom's fantastic journeys, or the books he's written, or the fitness equipment he's into, or just anything, if you just want to follow him on Instagram, all of that'll be covered in the show notes and everywhere I possibly can. So they'll find you, mate.
Absolutely. Right now, I just ordered in a whole bunch of books, and I'm giving a discount, and I'll autograph everybody that wants a book.
That's fantastic.
And send it off, and they can go to the website and learn about my struggles and overcoming adversities, and reach out. Always reach out, because I'll reach back.
Good on you, mate. I love it. You take care of yourself, mate.
Okay. Be well. Stay healthy. Okay.
You too. We're going to talk soon.
Okay.
Mate.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. Be good.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. You too.
If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, we'd really appreciate your ratings and comments if you can spare the time. If you'd like to know more about HikeordieTV and keep track of our adventures around Australia, make sure you drop by Hikeordie.com. That's where you'll find all the information you'll need to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Pinterest. As always, we appreciate your support. Thanks for listening.